Operation Epic Fury, one of the largest, most complex, most overwhelming military offensives the world has ever seen. Nobody's seen anything like it. We have hit hundreds of targets in Iran, including Revolutionary Guard facilities, Iranian air defense systems. Just now, it was announced that we knocked out 9 ships plus their naval building, all in a matter of literally minutes. Iran's formerly supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, is dead.
I spoke to you about the situation in the Gulf and explained that the United Kingdom was not involved in the strikes on Iran. That remains the case. The basis of our decision is the collective self-defence of long-standing friends and allies and protecting British lives. That is in accordance with international law, and we are publishing a summary of our legal advice. We are not joining these strikes, but we will continue with our defensive actions in the region.
Mr Farage, would a reform government have allowed US forces to use UK air bases for offensive operations in Iran?
Yes, is the answer to your question. I would have said to the Americans, please do use our bases. We will be supportive of you on this.
There were a series of very loud blasts in the area of Dubai that I'm based in. That's in the marina area. It's a very touristy area, actually. Those blasts were the loudest we've heard yet, but equally we are reassured that they are most likely the sound of interception by the UAE's quite sophisticated THAAD interception kit. That is the Terminal High Altitude Area Defence System.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Very good morning to you. Just gone 6 o'clock. It is Tuesday the 17th of March and it is all go here at Studio 1 of Talk House. Let me just give you a little idea of how disorganised it is this morning. Damien G-Spot's gone missing, as has the headset, the microphone and most other things. Mrs K's been on the phone because young Iris is not at all well and a paramedic's on the way, so I'm watching my phone on the way. But never mind, peeps, we're here for Alarm Clock Britain, although Damien hasn't turned up. But the gang are here. Big Mark's here. Big in many ways. Christian, top producer, the main man, is here. Nehar's here, and a new girl who's making tea without sugar. It's all going on. 0344 419 1000 is the telephone number you need for the show as ever. You can send a voice note. You can send or make a proper call as well. What's a proper call? You can also text us 87222. As you know, this is the way that you can get involved with your news of the day. We want to hear from you. 0344 419 1000. Where do we start? I am going to make an absolute promise to my first guest this morning that we are not going to talk about Starmer. Oh, yes, we are. Matt Vickers, Deputy Chairman of the Tory Party. How are you? Good morning. All good, all good. They're thriving, not just surviving, thriving this morning. You said it's just like every other day. You're not thriving. Why are you thriving? So you're looking smart.
I'm out of bed. I'm tired, but I'm out of bed. I'm here.
What time did you go to bed last night?
A bit later than I should have.
See, this is no good. You've got to go to bed. You've got to be dedicated
next Monday,
to your
I'm on a curfew. Next Monday, I'll be in bed nice and early. Hopefully there won't be late boats.
All those alarm clock Brits that listen to this show, they've already packed the van. They're down the motorway. They're on the way home from the night shift. We love your support. So, as ever, what are you waking up to on Tuesday the 17th of March? The Donald has said for the 835th time he's not happy with Keir Starmer for refusing to sort of aid America. The latest sort of thing yesterday was, will you please send some warships to help us clear the Straits of Hormuz, that massive great waterway through which all the oil of the world transports itself. He said no. There are, we should say this, plenty of people in the UK who agree with Keir Starmer and think we shouldn't be offensively involved, OK? Let's hear him reiterate yesterday, did one of those press conferences. This was, let's react to what's going on. I bet he says cost of living or breakfast clubs. Morning, Keir, how are you?
While taking the necessary action to defend ourselves and our allies, we will not be drawn into the wider war.
What an inspiring man I have leading our country. Donald, not happy with the UK. Morning, orange man, baby.
I was very surprised with the United Kingdom, because the United Kingdom, 2 weeks ago, I said, why don't you send some ships over? And he really didn't want to do it. I said, you don't want to do it. We've been with you. You're our oldest ally. I think it's terrible. No, I was very surprised. I told him, you know, we requested 2 aircraft carriers, which they had, and he didn't really want to do it. And then right after the war essentially ended, you know, meaning they were obliterated, he said, I would like to send the aircraft carriers. I said, I don't need them after the war has ended and won. I need it before the war. So I was very upset with, not upset, I was not happy with the...
He described, Matt, the United Kingdom used to be the Rolls-Royce of allies. And he says that this man this is interesting, eviscerates Starmer and says he's not able to make his own decisions, which is absolutely spot on true, isn't it?
I think when you look at it, of all the messes that Keir Starmer's made since he arrived in number 10, trashing the special relationship.
Has he, though? He
has trashed it.
I'm going to try a different attack this morning. I'm going to try and stick up for Keir Starmer. No, bum that, I'm not. He has ruined the special relationship.
I think when you look at it, we relied on America in all the conflicts we've ever been involved with. They've been there shoulder to shoulder with us. We're looking at them now with Ukraine. The panic that the US weren't going to play their part in the Ukraine crisis. We need those guys. They've relied on us. We've relied on them.
The special relationship, though, I've had this said to me by many people in the know. The special relationship goes beyond, does it not, the personalities of 2 men? And we're not for in any way saying that Donald Trump is the be-all and end-all, because there are many examples of him messing up. But that special relationship, why I supported Trump over his comments about NATO when he came to power for the 2nd time, and he went, I'm not doing this, because we need to know this. America has spent billions and billions of pounds supporting Europe, protecting Europe, putting its money where its mouth is. It was only when he came last year and said, I'm paying more into NATO than the very people who set it up to protect themselves. So I suspect if you had a brain cell in your head, but Starmer is handicapped and paralysed by trying to... The left of his party wouldn't allow him to get involved in this.
I mean, the fact that there was dilly-dally at the thought of them using our bases in this operation is raised. Well, you can have the debate about whether we should be actively involved.
Yeah, you'd have let them have the bases,
right? Open the door, let them use the bases without question, actually, when you look at what's going on, when you look at what they're doing for us, when you look at our shared interests across the world, we should get on with it. But you're right, he's too busy, he's too worried about his own backbenchers. He's not worried about our national security. No. He's worried about how long he can hold on to the keys to number 10 and appease those lefty people, those nut jobs in his own party who are obsessed with...
Are you saying that some of them are nut jobs?
They're absolute nut jobs, some of them. They put everything aside. Our own national security goes to one side for them to have their own internal debates about how they feel about certain groups of people.
Wouldn't you love Donald Trump to be in charge of the Labour Party? This is the next thing that he said about the United Kingdom. Oh, God, go on, play it.
When I hear the UK, which was sort of considered the Rolls-Royce of allies, right? When you say they were the oldest and they were going to be there, and I say it would be really helpful if you'd send over a couple of ships, and if you have some minesweepers, which they do, it'd be very helpful. And the Prime Minister is a nice man. I think he's a very nice guy. He says, well, I'd like to ask my team. I said, you don't have to worry about a team. You don't have a team. You're the Prime Minister. You can make a decision. Well, I have to speak to my people. I said, you don't have to speak to anybody. So it was very disappointing. And then after we obliterated them, destroyed their military, the whole thing, and it became a much safer zone, he said, we're going to send over 2 aircraft carriers. I said, I don't want them anymore. I don't want them after we win. I want them before we start. I don't need your aircraft carriers after we've already won.
I mean, you can't make the point any better, can you? And there's the point, right? I'm not sticking up for everything Trump says, but he is handicapped by this. And I said it when he was winning the election. This man promised so much to so many people, does not have it in him to make a decision. There encapsulates the difference between America and England right now.
Yeah.
I'll have to speak to my team.
Well, it's
I
farcical.
think back to Prime Ministers Blair, Thatcher, who just made decisions, and if he didn't like it, he had to go along with it and vote them out. And that leadership, he's not a leader, is he?
Well, I mean, it's farcical. The fact that you're having this debate between the UK and the US, and the reality is Iran is a huge threat. These people, they slaughtered tens of thousands of their own people.
Oh, that was my phone. Didn't turn the bleep off. Sorry, go on, carry on.
They slaughtered tens of thousands of their own people. They've plotted terrorist attacks funded terrorist attacks on our own soil, and now there's a threat of them getting hold of nuclear weapons. This is not something we can ignore. This is something we actually have to stand shoulder to shoulder with the US and Israel. How active you are on the ground is one thing, but the fact that you're having these flimsical, farcical debates around where warships are and aren't is ridiculous.
Do you know, you might think this is an outrageous thing to say, and I've said it several times on this show, right? When Corbyn stood against whoever he stood against, Boris Johnson, there is not a part of Jeremy Corbyn as a person or a policy that I would agree with. But I sort of admired the fact that that was his manifesto and that's what he stuck to. The thing about Keir Starmer is, and I would have admired him more if he'd gone, no, you're not using my bases, you're not using my planes, you're not using my ships. But the truth is he goes round and round in bleeding circles, trying to please all the people all the time. So, no, you can't. I'll speak to my team. Yes, you can. No, you can't. If you're Trump or another ally, you're thinking, well, you know, I've only got a way and he'll do exactly what I say. He just doesn't have it, does he? There's some comments already. Listen, thank you for your text, 87222. Danny, dear team. Oh, you're part of the team. Before the start of World War II, the rest of Europe wanted to appease Hitler. Only Churchill stood against him. Also, it took years for the USA to come into the war, but the USA armed the UK in the meantime. Without the USA, we would have lost, and Churchill recognised that. It's not about personality. Bill from Romsey, good morning. Can you ask Matt if he thinks that Starmer did not send the ships because he was looking at the cost? Then he had cash for helping heat oil users. It's an interesting comment.
Well, I think you have got to look at the problem with the entire economy, with everything that we spend at the moment. The benefits bill is ballooning. We can't fund our armed forces properly because of the scale of the benefits bill. Businesses can't go out there and create jobs. They're being taxed to death to fund this ballooning benefits bill that is completely out of control. When you look at the number of people being signed up to benefits every day, it is eye-watering. We aren't doing the assessments. People are just being allowed to sign up willy-nilly. It's devastating.
But don't worry about it. You're jumping ahead. I've got a bit on that this morning because in a major speech today, Rachel Thieves will say that Britain needs to forge closer ties with the EU and that'll make us all better off.
So she just doesn't get it, does she?
No.
She doesn't realise that if you tax everybody who creates jobs to death, if you tax businesses into extinction, they can't employ people anymore. Those people end up on welfare.
You sound like you're teaching somebody how to...
She doesn't get it.
No, she just doesn't get it. I thought as part of NATO, we were obligated to help Trump, and all Donald asked for is 2 bloody minesweepers. That's a very interesting point. Morning, Lee.
Morning, Jezza. Lee from Scarborough in his van, off to work, veteran. The only thing that we can send Donald Trump is dinghies. We ain't got any warships. We can send him plenty of dinghies. Oh yeah, I'm out to work today, 10, 12-hour shift, so I can pay for some hotels, some new phones, some new trainers, some nice new houses for some illegal immigrants. Great show, pal. Keep it up.
And I understand that anger, and I say it almost every day. It's like yesterday, the energy thing. We're having a huge debate about, you know, the energy crisis is going to hit. We were reading this morning that it's in all sorts of newspapers. We might have speed limits. There might, you know, petrol's going to run out, bread's going to run out, all this sort of stuff. And you go, right, this is the reality of what's going on, right? So Starmer doesn't address his people and say, look, I understand, and we're gonna do what we can, blah, blah, blah. He stands up and says, we found £53 million to help people with oil tanks, right? Not people that, like your man who's just phoned, who needs to fill his van to go to work. And then the whole debate yesterday was about Crazy Ed Miliband because, and I'd love the Tory party's view on this, he said North Sea drilling won't lower prices. I ask you, you're the deputy chairman of the Tory party, if you, and I said it yesterday, if you've got £120 billion of debt and in your garden shed you've got something that pays that off, wouldn't you bloody well use it, or am I missing the point?
Well, it's worse than that, isn't it? Because he's not only is he not using it, not only is he coming out
buying
and not
it
weighing
off
in the
some
value,
other bugger.
He's buying it abroad. He's putting people out of work, people who work in that industry, in my part of the world, actually. People from areas like Scarborough, beautiful Scarborough.
Nice.
People from areas like Scarborough who go out there and work in the oil sector, being put out of work. We're importing the stuff, which means we're creating more in emissions, more pollution, by dragging the stuff all the way to the UK
and that's
from
not
elsewhere.
all of it as well. We're actually paying more to Norway to drill in the exact place. Apparently we won't drill because that might upset, what, the Friends of the... When who would it upset? Why would nobody with a brain cell go, you know what, we've got a natural bloody resource. I'm proud, by the way. I've got my grandson to go into school and say, drill, baby, drill. Honestly, I don't understand. It's like you've got this resource that means we'll be okay, and yet you cannot make a damn decision. 6:15, Liam's on. One morning, Lee.
Morning, Jeremy. Liam from Accrington here. I'm just wondering, when exactly will Stormy actually step down? Because his post is basically untenable. Honestly, I think he needs to go.
Well, we all know he needs to go, but the point is he's not going to. Yesterday is a chance to do so. You know, can I ask you about drill, baby, drill and fracking? What is the downside of that? Because Mad Miliband thinks we should, and I put this in perfectly basic terms, he thinks for a country that, 1%, just a little bit high of that, of the carbon emissions in the world, that we should lead the way in wind farms, steal the land off the farmers who won't be able to provide us with food. We'll have to buy that at a better cost as well, right? Build wind farms that don't create enough electricity or gas, not get it ourselves, and then buy it at twice the cost and your bill goes up. How does that make sense, man?
Flying in from... It's costing jobs. It's costing us more money. It's costing, in terms of environmental outputs. It's just a no-brainer. And actually... this whole thing with Iran exposes why it's such a stupid idea to be reliant on the rest of the world to provide what you need to run your own country. It's devastating. And then beyond that, they've decided at this point, when prices are surging in oil, they're going to slam tax, more fuel duty on those people who are already struggling to fill their cars. Prices
How
go up
old
at
are you?
the petrol pump.
How old are
We're
you?
going to tax it
How
more.
old are you?
I am. Guess, Jeremy.
58.
42.
Have you in your lifetime, I know you're a Tory politician, and I know sometimes the rhetoric, I sit here of a morning and I actually don't want to do this, but there isn't anything about this guy and this government that makes any damn sense to me. I was ready. I was as ready as anybody to kick you lot into touch, right? I genuinely mean that. Everybody knows I didn't vote Tory last time, right? I voted for reform. My neck's on the line with that. But even I, as a person who's lived here for 60 years, wanted this government to work. I thought Sunak and Johnson and the mess of thrush, did I say truss? I wanted stability. This man, I don't think it's possible to put into words how bad I think this man is. He is incapable of making decisions. There's no leadership. There's no moral fibre. There's nothing, man. And every day we come here, whether he hacks off America, whether he was that's another thing. The coalition of the willing. Oh, shove it up your back. The whole thing. Even if I disagreed with this man, I'd like to think within him was something that actually stood by a bloody decision, and it doesn't happen ever.
Well, spineless U-turn after U-turn. But the worst part of it, you know, you and I will often have debates about what the last government got wrong.
Lots.
But the impact on the economy.
Oh, yeah.
The reality is people could go out to work before. The benefit system wasn't perfect, but actually it held its own, and people were questioned before they got handed cash. Everything is in reverse. 24% more people unemployed. That is people's lives.
Yep.
Reforming benefit isn't about saving money. It's about saving people's lives, not leaving them on the scrap heap, letting them get on with life, go out there, get a job, live as they wish to live and provide for their families. But it's horrendous that that's what you can't do in Britain. People going to work this morning are paying ever more in tax, and the people who aren't working are getting ever more in benefits. It's unfair, it doesn't work, and the country can't work when those who are working hard and doing the right thing are put out of work, put out of a job, and it becomes not worthwhile getting out of bed.
I absolutely agree with you 1,000,000%, and I imagine, because you are a true Tory, the frustration that message, a secure economy and doing something about a ballooning welfare benefits bill and saying to people, no, we're not going to pay for you to do nothing. Actually, at the end of the day, give something back, even if you're not working. We're going to, I don't know, community service, I've been saying it for years. That message was lost by the Tories with all the shenanigans. But this guy, even yesterday with that oil, it's always, let's help the people on benefits. And the reason that Christian came up, and I think it's genius, you know, alarm clock Brits. I've even heard Jenrick stealing it now. The fact of the matter is, I don't care if it's 20,000 people or 20 million people. What is the inspiration to get out of work, to provide for your family, to pay your council tax and your bills, to maybe afford to save a little bit or not? It's the way things are going. Your food prices are going up, everything's going up. When you look at people, this is why I get so angry, because it's not far right. It's basic sense, common sense. Why would I live my life correctly so some other person can be treated better than me? How does that, as a philosophy, ever work, Matt? It doesn't work, does it? It doesn't work.
Record levels of tax. The number of police on our streets is falling. We can't fund our armed forces properly and reach that 3%. It's all going the wrong way. And there's only one crowd benefit. It's the people who aren't going to work, who are actually being encouraged not to go to work by the generosity.
And the guy who said, how long is this going to go on for? You look rather whimsically down at your paper and went 3 years. He's not going anywhere, is he?
Yeah.
And actually, I hate saying this, but even if he does, the drippy piece of whatever, what's the alternative?
Oh.
I read overnight that Labour paid for the tax advising lawyers to get Angela Rayner off the hook. Did you read that?
Well, it's probably so she could be there ready to take the helm. That's
God.
the next chapter of this sorry saga, isn't
Julian's in Newport. Yeah, great show. He says, has Starmer ever actually said he supports the US and Israeli action in Iran? All he seems to say is, I don't want to take part. La la. I may have missed it if he did. I was probably falling asleep listening to the nasal drivel. Good morning to Bill. Matt Vickers. Voters' memories of the Tory predate July 24, and it was 14 years of wasted opportunity, lies and disappointment. They, I'm afraid, are the reason this horrendous government are in power. Let me tell you, I'm going to jump in for you. He's one of the few Conservative politicians that sit here and take it, and fair play to you. What's your answer to that?
I think, do you know what? I'm always the first to say what the last government made mistakes, but the reality is we've got a new leader at the helm. We're looking at what went wrong. We're looking at what goes forward. But actually, you know, under the last government, you could get a job. You could go out there, earn a living, and generally it was slightly more balanced in your favour, and it was worth going
economically,
to work.
we were a lot better off.
At the moment, actually, and that's the biggest thing. People want to be able to get on with their lives. They want to be able to earn a living, provide for their family, and not be taking the pee out of by a state that's taxing them to death and doling out to other people. Fundamentally, it's completely wrong, and that's what's going to destroy this country. It's costing all these people their jobs.
87222 on the text. Billy and Fareham. Maybe we need to send Starmer and his cabinet to Sandhurst for a week or so to learn some leadership. But hang on, can the MOD afford that? Whilst we're at it, send them to some business work experience. I don't know, maybe with Sir Alan Sugar. The truth is, Billy and Fareham, this lot, what, Sandhurst? My God, that lasts about 5 seconds. Karen in Newcastle, morning, Jez, and the very handsome Matt. Starmer is more concerned about cozying up to the EU. Our energy prices are out of control. Sorry, but we have the North Sea. I cannot, in my mind, think we shouldn't be doing drill, baby, drill. George in Leicester, listen, what I love about the show is people have different opinions. I'm sorry, Jez, I totally disagree. Starmer shouldn't have to send anything, as Trump keeps insisting. They, the US, are the strongest military force on the planet. Why do they need anyone? Donald Trump's making himself and the US look like fools. If you think the fuel prices and cost of living will be better as the result of the war, please feel for those of us on the breadline, like us alarm clock Brits. George in Leicester. Interestingly, I completely agree that the cost of living is causing monumental problems. And you might think, oh, sending a warship to support Donald Trump isn't the answer. The fact is the Straits of Hormuz are the main waterway for oil. I agree with you. He shouldn't be his lackey. But my point is this. Cost of living is affected by decisions governments make, right? And if you're right, it's simply this, George. I get you're an alarm clock Brit. I absolutely agree that you've got a right to. Everybody's got a right to an opinion. I'm not sitting here supporting everything Trump goes. The reason your cost of living prices and everything is out of control is because this government is taxing the whatsits off you to pay for people to sit at home and do nothing. And this hasn't been called out. If anybody had said that about the feckless and the lazy and the unemployed, I was saying it 15 years ago. There are millions of people in this country, okay, through which I think the benefit system, the welfare system helps, and I'm very happy to pay my tax. But if we do not, as a society, say once and for all, there are lazy, demotivated, feckless people who are taking advantage of a system that is wiping their backside, we're lying, aren't we? There are. Stop giving them stuff for nothing.
Well, it's about balance, isn't it? It's
yes.
about balance. There needs to be a safety net that supports those people who genuinely need help.
Genuinely.
But if you start to put the scales in such a way that anybody who earns a little bit gets taxed to death and it's not worth going to work because it's much easier to be on benefits, that's the choice people will make.
Used to tell me 10 years ago on the Jeremy Kyle show, they'd look me in the face and they go, why would I go to work and get more on the dole? Do you know why? I'm going to tell you something now. Christian's going to fall off his chair. You know when you walk up the high street and you see a person begging and they've got a dog? £17.50 a month for the dog. You think I'm winding you up? That is ludicrous, man.
Yeah.
It does nothing for people who are going to work. That's all I'm saying. Whenever we have this debate, people go, what about the homeless and the mentally ill? I'm quite happy to pay for them, but we are having the P, as you said, taken out of us.
And the end result, you are in this doom loop now, where she taxes more and taxes more and taxes more. Businesses can't hold up to that, whether it's the national insurance rise, whether it's the business rates that are trebling. There are pubs out there, their business rates bill is trebling. The employment rights bill that's covering them in red tape, those businesses go to the wall, more people end up on benefits, she taxes more people go out of work. It's a doom loop.
Well,
tax businesses to death, put people out of work, tax them some more to make up for paying the benefits bill, and we start again, and we just go down and down and down till.
Well, listen, I think we must give her a moment, because coming next, Richard III, Rachel Thieves, in a major speech today, was said that Britain needs to forge closer ties with. She's completely deranged. Morning, Donny.
Morning, Jeremy. Donald in South Wales. Starmer keeps going on about not joining the wider war. Well, sending ships to the Strait of Hormuz is not joining the wider war. It's a defensive action, which we've already been doing. So I don't see the point in not sending any ships.
Conflict breaks out anywhere in the world, it has consequences here at home. Talk War is your definitive national security briefing. From the conflict in Ukraine to the tensions in Gaza and the latest escalation with Iran, this is where you'll find comprehensive comment and expert analysis with multiple updates throughout the day. The Talk War podcast from Talk, available on the Talk app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, my friends. 6:28. It's Tuesday morning, the 17th of March. It was just we were playing those clips. Matt Vickers is here, Deputy Chairman of the Tory Party. Donald Trump's not happy with Keir Starmer. I want to ask anybody: is there anybody out there that's happy with Keir Starmer? Is there anybody at all that's inspired by this? Oh man, it does my head in. Morning, Paula.
Morning, Jeremy. Paula from Essex. Hope you're having a great show. Now, I work in London, and with the fuel prices going up, I can now not afford to fill up my car. to drive the 70-mile round trip I have to take every day because of Mr. Starmer. I've refused to call him a sir because he's not even that. Honestly, this world has gone to pot. Our country is the worst, and I cannot afford to go to work, so I'm going to have to ask Universal Credit for help, which I don't want to do. But does he not realise that hundreds of people are going to be doing that, causing more money to be spent on the benefit system? He's an idiot. This man is an actual idiot, and I have no sympathy for him when he loses the spot of being our Prime Minister. Honestly, I can't wait for him to go. Bring on Nigel Farage and reform. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Let's just strip that down. Let's move the Farage thing out of that a minute. The message in that call from an alarm clock Brit is, under this government, there's no point in me going to work because I can't afford to fuel my car. Listen to this. This is. I mean, you know this more than me. Thank you, Pauline Crew. Approximately 55% of a litre of fuel is tax and VAT. The increase in the price of oil will increase income for this bloody government. Why would a socialist want to cut that, as they will use it to pay for the benefit system, which is exactly what Paula just said. You cannot afford to fill a car up, right, to drive to London from Essex, to go to work, to pay tax to the Exchequer, to do what's right. Hold on one second. But she's got enough about her. She doesn't want to take universal credit because, oh, she's a bit weird. She believes in working and making good for yourself. But that's not, so I really am on one this morning, that's not absolutely applauded under a socialist government. That's looked down on. Sitting on your arse and doing nothing is more beneficial than Paula going to work. It's an outrage, man.
55% of everything you put in your car, of that fuel you put in, is tax already, which is slightly ridiculous. And she wants to increase that. The price of oil is going to... There's benefits for them in tax revenues. But the real consequence of that is people like Pot literally can't get to work. That is devastating. That's the real consequences of these stupid numbers that Rachel Reeves flaps around. People's actual lives being damaged. They just want to go to work, get on with it. Well, they're not asking anyone for anything. They just want to get on with their lives, and they're being held back by this ridiculous increase in tax. Yes.
Front page of the Daily Telegraph. This is from Rachel Thieves, Richard III. Britain needs to forge closer ties to the EU to start growing again. Rachel Reeves is to claim in a major speech today. She will hail closer ties with Brussels as one of the greatest growth opportunities for Britain in the decade to come. In the changing world, Britain is not powerless. We can shape our own future. This is some business school in London. I'm making three big choices, I know it's his voice, on the greatest growth opportunities for Britain in the decade to come. Growth in every part of Britain, AI and innovation. And most importantly, a deeper relationship with the EU. Oh, I'm sorry, love. I thought we, the British public, had said we didn't want anything to do with it. And shall I tell you, I've never said this before on the show, shall I tell you why I voted to leave? Genuinely? Because I thought we're an island, and I thought, do you know what? Let's just go back into ourselves, like Germany did in the 40s. Let's not lie about that, and created BMW and Bosch and Bang & Olufsen, some of the most successful businesses ever. Let's show the world how good British products are and productivity. Let's build stuff. Let's just embrace technology and make our country successful. And this Egypt, right, with the highest taxation levels, God, I could write so much today, it wants to tax us more, but she thinks the answer is to be closer to the EU. I'm losing the will to live.
It's always somebody else's fault, isn't it? It's always somebody else's fault. It has nothing to do with the fact she's taxing all these businesses into extinction. It has nothing to do with the fact our energy prices are amongst the highest on the planet. It has nothing to do with the fact we're unwilling to drill our own oil and gas and instead want to import.
Why didn't the Tories drill more gas? Why didn't the Tories drill gas?
We were drilling. We were still issuing licences for North Sea oil and gas. Yeah, it is literally a Labour decision. There's several decisions Labour made on arrival in office. One was to end the Rwanda scheme. That didn't go too well. The other was to stop us drilling our own oil and gas. This is the Just Stop Oil manifesto. This is what Dale Vince and his goons were wanting to do. And the Labour Party are doing it for them. They've made this ridiculous... It is a no-brainer. It's costing us more. It's costing people their jobs. It's damaging to the environment. And it's putting our national security at risk as we're relying on people like Iran to provide us with oil. utterly nuts.
Tim says in Taunton, calls himself Taunton Tim. I don't remember in any party's manifesto to stop drilling in the North Sea. This is from Michael. Since Starmer became PM, we've had a rape gang inquiry being pushed down the road. Absolutely, mate, does my head in. Anti-Semitism, shoplifting, unrestricted benefits, and we put migrants first before the British people. That will be his legacy. He won't have a legacy to stand on. Hey, Jeff's in Bedford. Morning, Jez and Matt. Please let Matt know that the problem with the Tory party at the moment, there are too many of the old lot still there. I've lived in Bedford for 12 years and never seen anyone from the Conservatives. I will leave to live in Europe soon, having sold up and bought a house. I'm not contributing to the wasters who we call MPs. You're a waster, Matt Vickers.
Interesting.
I love his answer.
You know what I think, actually, when you look at
Vickers.
People need to take a look at Kemi.
Vickers.
If we had somebody like Kemi in number 10 now with a bit of backbone, a bit of steel, who was on the side of people who work hard and do the right thing, this country would be in a very different place.
He made a really interesting point there, and I don't want to be specific, but I was reading over the weekend that maybe a reshuffle, and this is a genuine comment, is on the way, and that some of the as this man has said, some of the people that still are sort of associated with the old regime could be moved aside. Could this be you heading for the heights?
I'm less bought into this idea. We've got a guy who's the Shadow Chancellor who's got more business nows than the entire cabinet put together, who knows how to fix the economy, how to support businesses, how to help them, because it isn't government that creates jobs, it's businesses that create jobs. You need somebody who actually understands business.
The article said that there was going to be a reshuffle because Kemi Badenoch and the Tory party are terrified that Katie Lamb, the rising star, is going to defect and they need to find her a job.
Well, we'll see what that brings. I don't see it happening, but the reality is these guys have got to sell papers, so they write all sorts of things and tell you the ins and outs. The Conservative Party is more united now than it's been in.
But you might get a promotion in the reshuffle.
Well, we'll see what occurs, but I think we're not moving anybody anywhere anytime soon. We've got a cracking team.
You're the
coming up with a real plan.
You're one of the few that talks sense. Alan's in Middlesbrough, but he's currently in Porto, a major city in Portugal. I know that, mate. He says, street safe, society intact, no menacing-looking people ogling at women, quality, affordable bars and restaurants. Things work. We in the UK are getting ripped off. We are actually worse off than Portugal. Chris says, Matt seems a nice guy. But you might have a new leader, but you've still got plenty of liberals, wet liberals in your party. Tories need a few years out to get better people in. One leader don't make nothing better. Look, that's good English. Look at Starmer. That's quite an interesting point. I've said before about the Tories, and I'm not being disrespectful, I don't think the British electorate will forgive you in 3 years' time. I think it'll take you 10 years.
I think so.
Will you still be in your seat then?
Liberal thing. But the reality is, we are now a party with a real plan to deal with the borders issue. We are committed, collectively, all of our MPs have signed up to leaving the ECHR to get a grip on our borders so that we can actually support our own veterans.
But the argument you've got, which is the problem, is you should have done that before. The problem for the Tory party, and I'm being straight with mates, right, is now you say we're leaving the ECHR. I can tell you that alarm clock Brits who would have voted Tory will be going, Matt, why are you saying that? You had years to do that and you didn't leave it. That's the Nigel Farage policy, which has now been jumped on. I'm being straight.
Wasn't the leader. I wasn't the minister.
Then why did she stay in the cabinet if she disagreed with what the Prime Minister was doing?
You can contrast. I tell you what, actually, if you look at the people who had the issue with the borders, if you look at who was the Home Secretary when the thing ballooned, who was the Immigration Minister when it ballooned?
Oh, yes. Right, anyway.
Oh, hang on. Which party are they in now?
The Reform.
They're now in Reform.
Because so the Tory party didn't do what the Tory party said.
Instead of having the Conservative Party in government, you're going to put the guys who ballooned it back into office, but with a different coloured tie on. You're going to give them a different coloured tie.
I'm not a voice piece for reform, but I think you'll find they both resigned because they didn't think their government. Robert Jenrick walked out of the job as immigration.
So Rob is a mate of mine.
He's a mate of mine, but he resigned because he realised what wasn't going to happen.
If you want to blame the people who are in the Conservative, the choice at the next election, there is a big choice
between the Greens and Reform.
Well, you can make that choice between the Greens and Reform. Your mate, Zach Polanski. But the reality is there is a big choice. Our economy is being destroyed.
I agree with you.
People are being put out of work. At the next election, there will be a choice between a party that is very clear, that is telling you one party
Reform.
that is very clear about what they'll do with the economy, who is on the side of working people, who says we will cut benefits. We don't vote for the two-child cap, then say we're not doing it, we are doing it, we aren't doing it, we are doing it. We are very clear. We will reduce the benefits bill. We are on the side of people who are paying the taxes and picking up the tab. On the other side,
yes, dear.
On the other side, you've got the Labour Party in Reform. The last election.
Come on.
At the last election, Reform went into that election with a manifesto that had 140 billion pounds of unfunded spending commitments. They told you how they're going to spend it, but didn't tell you how they're going to pay for it.
I think we're being really unfair, and I think
it's a fact.
No, I'll tell you why I think we're being unfair. Should I tell you why we're being unfair? Now, listen, what I love about you is we can have these debates, okay? I think we've forgotten what could potentially be a really important part of the next election. Why does nobody mention the Liberal Democrats anymore? Well, I'm going to play you a clip which sums up why Ed Davey is even lower on my list of important politicians. This man, in my opinion, is less important than Zach Hypnotits Salah. Just look at this. Is Daddy Cool entrance on stage. Have you seen this? Have you seen Ed Davey? This is ridiculous. Have a watch.
Please welcome the leader of the Liberal Democrats, Ed Davey.
Oh my God, he's walked out. What the? Stupid. He's got dark glasses and then he does this ridiculous thing. I believe there's too many like him in your party.
There's going to be some scary
There's a lot of people like him in your party. You know that, don't you?
No, there isn't.
There's Liberal Democrats in the Tory party. Anyway, Matt and I are right at it for a Tuesday morning. This is another Matt. Good morning.
Good morning, Jezza. Matt in Warrington loading the van. Keir Starmer, he's so weak. He looks so weak on the world stage. He's a pathetic example of how not to lead a country. Whether we should be in the war or not, he should come out straight and say, we're not having anything to do with this. Personally, I'm a bit 50-50 on it. I do think we should be clearing the streets, sending the minesweepers in. But I don't think they're ready. I don't because he's spent no money on anything. So I think he's embarrassed. But I dread to think what Trump's going to do to us after this. It's just going to get a whole lot worse. And they'll blame it all on the war, all the things going wrong in the country. Oh, it's the war in Iran. It's pathetic. Anyway, Jezza, great show.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 18 minutes to 7. You're very welcome. Talk Breakfast, the home of common sense and the home of the alarm clock, Brit. JK, can I just give you a little idea? I'm going to show a picture in a couple of minutes. Technically, everything's gone wrong this morning. So Damien G-Spot's disappeared off the face of the earth and taken with it my headset and my microphone. I'm going to show you a picture in a while. They've basically got to stick everything with... Well, we haven't got any sellotape. You know those stickers that say fragile that you put on a box? That is currently all over the back of my neck. And you think this is hysterical, don't you? I just wonder if I turn round, whether I, without ruining all the microphones, whether I can do... This is extraordinary.
Amateur hour.
Can you see? I mean, what the... Sorry, I've got fragile taped to the back of my head. It's not funny. I'm having a nightmare. Anyway, welcome to the show. 0344 499 1000. Jez, Carl from up north there, thinking of introducing speed limits, he said, because of the fuel crisis. Have you read this story today? Telegraph page 6, speed limits to help petrol rationing. He says, who's going to police that then? Not the police, because they're too busy policing people who write hurty words. That's true, isn't it? Well, how are you going to ration petrol?
It's insane, isn't it? It's insane. The price of fuel is going up because of international events, so she's going to tax it more. It's just absolutely.
I've never seen you so passionate.
And you can't get the police to pull over and enforce it because, despite the fact we're paying ever more in tax, there are less police on the streets since this government came to office. We're paying more.
That's a fact.
And we're getting less for it.
And where did the starting of the lack of police start with? That's not your fault. That started with Theresa May.
Well,
when
the last Conservative government left office, there were more police on the streets than ever before.
Won't disagree there, aren't they now? Starmer and Reeves are desperate to get us back into the bust EU so they can find themselves somewhere to live or work after they have to flee the country, says Michael. You're right, though. The truth of the matter is Rachel Reeves' only answer to the crisis that's going on in this country is to raise tax. And the hard-working man and woman are not... They're not going to swallow this forever, are they? They're not. What happens in your mind? What do you think happens? Because people are becoming more and more frustrated, and the reality is it could be 3 years. What do you think happens?
Do you know what? We can talk about all the reasons that the last election turned out as it did, but this is something that anybody who's lived long enough has seen before. Every time Labour come to office...
I've seen it.
They bankrupt the country.
Absolutely.
And every Labour government in history has left more people out of work than when they arrived.
But will you acknowledge that that's why there is so much frustration, and that's why parties like Reform have garnered interest and support, because people, and I know you've been very honest about this, feel almost that the Tories, because they lied to us, because they didn't do what they said they were going to do, whatever the reasons, right? That's why we're in this mess. And I think that's as big a problem for Kemi and your team as almost what you're saying now. It's almost perception is reality. And I think people are blaming, in many instances, correctly, the Tories for allowing this shower of whatever to be in power.
I think the reality is that government is hard. You've got to make tough choices, but you've got to make sure that the government's on the side of people who are working hard and doing the right thing. Me and you will have discussions all day long, and I'll tell you all the things that the last government got wrong. I'll also tell you about certain policies that I might agree with the Reform crowd on. But by the time this
Breaking news, Matt Vickers, Deputy Chairman of the Tory Party, agrees with Reform on what? What do you agree with Reform on?
By the time this government has finished with this economy and this country...
Hold on, defection watch, defection watch, defection watch. No.
Whatever I think the last government got wrong, whatever I might agree with Reform on or not, by the time we get to the end of this government, by the time the next election, this economy is going to be so trashed. We're going to need somebody to come in who is responsible, who knows we've got to cut welfare, who knows we've got to live within our means, who knows we've got to pay down the national debt.
And you don't think that's Nigel Farage?
And the only people who are committed to doing that, who are not promising you bread and honey tomorrow, it's the Conservatives. It's always the Conservatives that come in and clean up the economic mess, help people get a job, get on in life and do the right thing. That's what you need. If you have a party that is promising all things to all men, isn't going to tell you how it's going to pay for it, 1 minute it's in favour of the two-child cap, the next minute it's not. Oh, yeah, now, what is it at the moment? Are we with the two-child cap or not with Reform? The reality is you need a party committed to reducing that welfare bill, supporting people who go out and work hard and paying down that national debt so that we live within our means. Not promising you everything on a string, because it's not possible. Governments can't give you everything for now. You've got to pay for it.
I'll say one thing to you, not just because we're mates. She underuses you. What I know about you is you believe in what you say, and I respect you for that. Roger in Wells says, I think Trump will now cancel the $150 billion trade deal with the UK whilst Labour is in power, just to get back at them. We've got Dickie Arbiter, a royal biographer, in a minute. A former press secretary of the Queen and former royal journalist. Want to talk royals? Don't go anywhere, Matty. Defection watch, defection watch. Matt Vickers said, and I quote, there's quite a lot with Reform I agree with.
A misquote. I said
I've never misquoted anybody in my life. Daniel, good morning.
Good morning, Jezza. It's Daniel from Epsom here. Rejoining the EU was not in Labour's manifesto. So what they're doing instead is creeping back towards the EU and trying to realign and trying to stymie and stifle the next government, which I think is completely wrong. It wasn't in your manifesto, so don't do it.
We're here to show our Jewish position. We are against this war, against the aggression, against the massacres, against the genocide committed by Zionism. Zionism doesn't necessarily have to come from the Middle East. It can come from the United States as well. We are Jews. We are completely against this bloodshed, against this murderous massacres that's happening in Iran, in Lebanon, in Gaza. The genocide in Gaza has not been accounted for still. It's continuing the genocide in Gaza without any food and medicine. We are here as Jews. We're going to continue our peaceful struggle.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 10 to 7. We're live across the United Kingdom. Talk Breakfast is on, the home of common sense and the home of alarm clock Brits. Matt Vickers, Deputy Chairman of the Tory Party, back in just a tick. We want to say a very good morning. I love this man. It's been far too long. Former Press Secretary to Her Majesty the Queen and royal journalist. A man who reminds me of my old man and his beliefs. Dickie Arbiter, good morning, sir. How are you?
Morning, Jeremy. I'm well. How are you?
I'm all right. I haven't spoken to you for a long time, sir. Just as an overview before we talk specifically, I think this is the first time in my 60-year life that I'm beginning to fear for our monarchy. Your thoughts, Dickie?
I'm not fearing for the monarchy. I'm a bit fearful for the family, because this is two issues. This is monarchy and the family, and this is affecting the family. They're managing to divorce themselves from Andrew Mountbatten Windsor by getting on with the job. And as far as the monarchy is concerned, I think it will strengthen. Quite frankly, the monarchy's been around for 1,000 years. It's had all sorts of upheavals. It's survived those. It'll survive this one. It's really the family having to come to terms with one of their own being a rotten apple in a very healthy basket.
You know me. You know that I'm, if you cut me in half, I'm a royalist. The reason it's not that I disagree. I think there's more to it. I think that the public, I'm with you about the monarchy and what it's done, but I think there is going to need to be far greater transparency, Dickie, far greater transparency for people to accept. There are already obviously questions about whether, how many people knew about the depth of the depravity of the Duke of York, the ex-Duke of York. Did you know what he was up to?
I didn't know what he was up to. Yeah, while I was there, he was associated with all sorts of dodgy people, but it really didn't impact on what the monarchy was doing at the time. This all took place after 2000, and it seemed to have deteriorated without anybody really knowing what was going on. Andrew played everything very close to his chest. His mother might have had an inkling, but I doubt it. He would lie to everybody what he was doing. The interview he did with Newsnight, he probably told his mother he was doing an interview. It might have been themed on Pitch at Palace, his entrepreneurial charity. He wouldn't have told her the truth, because if he had have done, alarm bells would have rung and she would have done something about it.
Do you think, without being harsh, again, I preface it by saying you know what I think about the monarchy. How would any mother give her kids 12 million quid without asking what it's for? That's the problem we've got right now, isn't it?
Well, 12 million pounds is the myth that's now become a fact. I don't think it was that much anyway. If it was anything, it was 3 million, not 12 million. But, a figure is a figure. Why that she gave it to him without asking questions? She might have asked questions. He wouldn't have told her exactly why. He was that sort of deceitful type of person.
Duplicitous. Andrew, apparently Tom Bauer is reporting, Dickie, and I wanted to ask you this. This whole, strip the titles, living in purgatory in Sandringham, can't even come out the front door. Apparently Bauer says someone went up to Sandringham last Saturday from the palace to suggest to Andrew that you voluntarily give up the line of succession. Is the king not able to just throw him off that?
No, he's not. And Tom should know better, because he is a lawyer. It has to be through an act of parliament. If you go back to the abdication, that was the Abdication Act of 1936. It went through parliament. It was ticked in the box by parliament, because at the time the British Parliament was head of the empire as well as the Commonwealth dominions. It's a different story today. There are 56 members of 56 members of the Commonwealth, 15 of which are Commonwealth realms, which means that the UK is one of them, The king is head of state, and every one of them have to agree to it. It has to go through their own parliaments. Now, Australia, New Zealand, and Canada have already nodded that they are in agreement. It has to go through Parliament, and it has to be basically Statute of Westminster that Andrew signs, and it can only go through Parliament and can only be a signature with the King's assent at the end of it. It can't just be Andrew signing away his birthright and that's the end of it. It's not as simple as that.
There's so much been said. You make your point about Tom. Andrew Loney's got theories. Kinsey Schofield's got theories. You've got theories. I want to ask you some very plain and direct questions, my friend, because it's nice to speak to somebody who I know's done the job. What was he like when you met him? How did he treat you, Andrew? Is he the oaf that everybody says?
Oh, Andrew was awful. I mean, he was duplicitous, he was a liar, he was bombastic, he was conceited, he was arrogant. You name it, he was it. Fortunately, I had very little dealing with him. It was a colleague, long past, who dealt with him, and I felt sorry for him. I was concentrating on Charles and Diana at the time. That had its own problems. But Andrew, no, I kept within 1,000,000 miles of him.
There he is up in Sandringham. I mean, somebody wrote the other day that what's left for this man, and that they fear for his, you know, what if he ends up, you know, thinking about there's no point in carrying on. Do you think somebody else came on and said, no, he's far too selfish for that, and is still in complete denial and not accepting in his own mind the mistakes he's made?
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with that. He is in denial and he doesn't believe he's made a mistake. And look, under English law, you're innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah.
But it's his association and now allegations that he did pass sensitive documents while trade ambassador to Jeffrey Epstein. That's another issue altogether.
Do you think he'll go to jail, Dickie?
I doubt he'll go to jail. And besides the misconduct in public office, it can take years to come to a conclusion. He'll just be up at Sandringham in exile, nobody taking any notice of him, and him sitting there still believing and watching videos, playing golf, that he is innocent.
But you would understand, we've only got one more minute, that there are many people going, if you are friends with the world's worst paedophile, if you have allegedly done this, should you be living with a chef and a valet in luxury? I understand hard-working Brits saying that, do you know what I mean?
No, well, it's a slightly different kettle of fish here. He's got a chef, he's got a valet. I suppose Charles felt he couldn't take everything away from him. He's taken 99% away, and the guy's got to live. He's incapable of boiling an egg, let alone boiling a kettle. So he's got to have somebody to care for him and tie his shoelaces up and what have you.
I preferably am more concerned about the victims of what happened. Listen, Dickie, do me a favour. Very good of you to come on. You'll come on again, my friend, won't you?
Yeah, as long as you ask me. You haven't asked me for about 5 years, but there you go.
Well, I've been suggesting you. It's this horrible people. No. Well, all right, Arbiter, you've got me. Thank you very much indeed. You'll be back on very soon. We love him. Dickie Arbiter, former press secretary to the Queen and former royal journalist, a man that my father knew very well. We've only got 2 minutes. Matt Vickers, I'm going to fire some questions at you very quickly. Donald Trump's not happy with Starmer. The country's not happy with Starmer. More tax, more tax, more tax. You say he's ruined our special relationship and their only economic thing is to increase taxation because all they care about is people on the dole.
More people out of work, more people picking up the dole. The balance is completely wrong. Anybody who gets up this morning is paying more and more in tax. Anybody who isn't going to work this morning is getting more and more in benefits. It's completely wrong. It's destroying our economy. And the people who are picking up the biggest tab, not only is it the taxpayers who've got up early, it's the next generation. Record levels of youth unemployment, the lowest ever in terms of graduate recruitment. Kids, opportunities for the next generation left behind. It's not happening.
I've got Richard Tyson, Deputy Leader of Reform, after the news. What did you want me to ask him about the two-child benefit? What was that?
Well, ask him what the current position is. What is it this week? I'm not sure.
Oh, quite. What current position on two-child cap?
Because they were voting against the other week, then they were for, then they're against, then they were for.
Ladies and gentlemen, love him or loathe him, what he does do is he comes here and he espouses what he believes in and his party believe in. Matt Vickers, you're a legend. Are you coming back next week?
Of course.
Have you been working out? You're looking quite...
No.
No?
No.
No.
Maybe it's a bad-fitting suit, I don't know.
It's a bad-fitting suit. Is it a suit? I thought it was just a jacket and a pair of cheap trousers. I'm joking. I'm messing. It's a lovely suit. A lovely suit from Burton's. Right, 0344 499.
Primark.
Is it Primada? Primada. Listen, news at 7. Richard Tice in the next hour. We've got some amazing guests this morning. Also, Amy Tarkanian and Aaron Ghosh as well about meningitis. 0344 499 1000. This is Talk Breakfast, and the news at 7 is next, my friends.
Over the past 36 hours, the United States and its partners have launched Operation Epic Fury, one of the largest, most complex, most overwhelming military offensives the world has ever seen. Nobody's seen anything like it. We have hit hundreds of targets in Iran, including Revolutionary Guard facilities, Iranian air defense systems. Just now, it was announced that we knocked out 9 ships plus their naval building, all in a matter of literally minutes. Iran's formerly supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, is dead.
I spoke to you about the situation in the Gulf and explained that the United Kingdom was not involved in the strikes on Iran. That remains the case. The basis of our decision is the collective self-defense of long-standing friends and allies and protecting British lives. That is in accordance with international law, and we are publishing a summary of our legal advice. We are not joining these strikes, but we will continue with our defensive actions in the region.
Mr Farage, would a reform government have allowed US forces to use UK air bases for offensive operations in Iran?
Yes is the answer to your question. I would have said to the Americans, please do use our bases. We will be supportive of you on this.
There were a series of very loud blasts in the area of Dubai that I'm based in. That's in the marina area. It's a very touristy area, actually. Those blasts were the loudest we've heard yet, but equally we are reassured that they are most likely the sound of interception by the UAE's quite sophisticated THAAD interception kit. That is the Terminal High Altitude Area Defense System.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, my friends, welcome along or welcome back. Just gone 7 o'clock. It is Tuesday, the 17th of March, and we're live across the United Kingdom with, of course, the home of Common Sense Talk, the place where you come and we get your views on the day's news. Anything goes here, 0344 499 1000. You can ring, get on air. You can send a voice note to the ever-reliable Christian, the man that usually answers the phone. G-Spot has gone missing again. Missing in action, so you'll get through, I promise you. Text the show as well, 87222. What are you waking up to? You're waking up to the news that Donald Trump is not happy again with Keir Starmer. He says, and I quote, well, I'm going to play this clip. He says that the relationship with the UK, that used to be like the Rolls-Royce, it's all gone a bit wrong. Have a watch, have a listen.
When I hear the UK, which was sort of considered the Rolls-Royce of allies, right? When you say they were the oldest and they were going to be there, and I say it would be really helpful if you'd send over a couple of ships, and if you have some minesweepers, which they do, it'd be very helpful. And the Prime Minister is a nice man. I think he's a very nice guy. He says, well, I'd like to ask my team. I said, you don't have to worry about a team. You don't have a team. You're the Prime Minister. You can make a decision. Well, I have to speak to my people. I said, you don't have to speak to anybody. So it's very disappointing. And then after we obliterated them, destroyed their military, the whole thing, and it became a much safer zone, he said, we're going to send over 2 aircraft carriers. I said, I don't want them anymore. I don't want them after we win. I want them before we start. I don't need your aircraft carriers after we've already won.
And that's my point, peeps. Love your thoughts on this. 0344 499 1000. I wouldn't mind if I believed this man had a position that he stuck to. He says we will not be drawn into the wider war. That's his right to say that, whether you agree with that or not. But he's now considering sending aerial minesweeping drones and to the Strait of Hormuz. So he'll do a bit. Like, you can have the bases eventually. Just put your money where your mouth is, or don't. Stand up for what you believe is right. Love him or loathe him, at least Trump's got a pair of balls, hasn't he, Andy? Good morning.
Morning, Jeremy. It's Andy from Hull. Yeah, it just shows where we're at as a nation, where as I reckon most people aren't really worried about what Iran can do to us, you know, in these horrible times, because we're not really involved. But we're more worried about, I know I certainly am, what's going to happen in the long term with our relationship with the States because of Keir Starmer's blatant inability to deal with Trump, and at least get in a room with him and be on some kind of level conversation with him. They're just so unalike that he can't even communicate with him. It's ridiculous. And the damage that is going to get done in the long term between our relationship and the States, it's very worrying.
A very good morning. We should say at 7:05 to the main man. He was on his phone during that break. We're not sure what he was doing. Richard Tice, Deputy Leader of Reform UK. Good morning.
Called multitasking, Jeremy. Some of us can do it and some of us can't.
Do you think you'll ever start a segment where you're actually nice to me?
Why would I want to do that? I'm only teasing. A very good morning to you.
Let me tell you, your betrothed is always very nice to me. If you've got the hump, that's just what you're going to have to deal with. Do you know what I'm saying?
There you are. Look, what an extraordinary world we live in, where our Prime Minister has seriously damaged the special relationship with the United States. And you can protect your British interests. And one of the ways to do that is actually to be seen as a reliable and trusted ally, not some form of flip-flopper.
I think that's the point, Richard.
Pandering to the Islamist votes within his own party. That's what he's doing. Be under no illusion.
I think that's right. And I don't know if you'd agree with this, but this is a genuinely serious point. I wouldn't mind if I disagree with everything that Keir Starmer says. All I would like is for him to have the balls to stand by that decision. If you don't want to go to war, you don't want to allow the bases, you don't want to allow minesweepers, have the courage to say it, because we should acknowledge that there are a lot of people in this country that believe that being drawn into this is not the answer. Yes, of course, the special relationship. Yes, of course, the allies. But what he shows, Richard, repeatedly is a distinct lack of... Well, he's got no leadership ability at all because he cannot make a decision. I don't have to agree with his decisions. I just wish he had the courage of them and would stand by them. You said it, flip-flopping. He never stands by anything, which means his backbench MPs, the opposition, Donald Trump and Europe know that if you stick at it long enough, you'll get your own way with Starmer. That's the real issue, isn't it?
Yes, look, the reality is, I mean, whether it's his 18th or 19th U-turn, he's just all over the place. He was shocked by the reaction to the fact that he didn't grant access to UK bases, including, most importantly of all, the access to Diego Garcia, that, of course, is in the process of giving away for free. Oh, no, actually, he wants to pay tens of billions of hard-pressed British taxpayers' cash to the friends of the Chinese communist regime in Mauritius so they can have no income taxes. I mean, the whole thing is completely and utterly potty, nothing short of that. And I can tell you that our international allies are just despairing about the flip-flopping, about the lack of reliability as an ally, but also despairing about the complete inadequacy of our military equipment. We just haven't got the kit, even if you had a Prime Minister that wanted to use it. And that's the failure of the previous Tory regime, who talked the talk on defence, but basically cut spending and procured it very badly. And this Labour government that's a year late on producing a defence investment plan.
Would you say, I believe the special relationship will survive two men. I think that the security briefings of the stuff that's shared goes beyond personality. But would you say that Trump has eviscerated Starmer?
Look, the special relationship overall will endure two individuals, particularly if Nigel Farage is our next Prime Minister, which hopefully will be the case sooner rather than later. Then it can be repaired and repaired rapidly. But what will take time and investment is the state of our armed forces and just the lack of equipment, the lack of ships, the lack of minesweepers. I mean, it's been completely and utterly hollowed out. It is increasingly apparent.
Let me ask you a direct policy question.
I genuinely worry that we've been deeply misled by many people in senior positions about our ability to properly defend ourselves.
Let me ask you a policy question that is very relevant, actually, because I raised this during the last election when Sunak decided to jump up 2 weeks out of the vote and say, we want 3% of GDP. And I quite rightly supported Donald Trump when he came to power the second time and said, you expect me to pay billions and you lot need to put your hands in your pockets, which happened. Would a reformed government increase defence spending? And I have to ask the question, how would you finance that, Richard?
Yes, we would. We were the only political party at the last election that said we need to get to 2.5% in 3 years and 3% of GDP in 6 years. And we showed how we paid for it. And we sadly, it may well be that 3% is not enough. However much you do spend it wisely. Don't waste it on badly procured equipment programmes, which the MOD specialises in. And how you fund it? Well, there's a variety of ways. Scrap net stupid zero that you might like to remind your previous guest, Mr. Vickers, was introduced by the Tory government. Stop paying welfare to people from overseas that you might like to remind Mr. Vickers. The Tory government encouraged mass immigration. So I'm not going to take any lessons from him or anybody else in the Tory party about our positions on policies. We're the people with the courage to say, the only net zero we want is net zero immigration. And we're going to cut welfare. Work is a great thing. We've got to encourage people back into work, incentivise risk-taking, cut daft regulation that was imposed by the Tories. You might like to remind your previous guest, Mr. Vickers. And
very polite this morning, Mr. Very polite this morning, Mr. Vickers. He asked me to ask you what the reform position on the two-child cap benefit position is this week. That was his question to you.
It's the same as it has always been, which is that we want to encourage more British families to have more children. But the reality is, thanks to their incompetence, the country's almost bust. And it's made even more bust by this dreadful hard-left socialist regime.
Couldn't agree more. And I'll tell you where
we're going to have to pick up the pieces. And that means things you might like to do, you can't do. It's as simple as that.
I'm probably even stronger than any of you. I'd probably because of what I used to do. All I ever hear is Labour politicians saying we need to take these children out of poverty. Well, stop damn well having them if you can't afford to bring them up. I'm sorry. I don't believe that there should be a society where you're allowed to just have... And before you say I've got 6, I pay for all of them. To have copious quantities of children for every other bugger to pay for them. The other thing I want to talk to you about, because you're the businessman... It's interesting. Rachel Thieves, Richard III as I call her, her idea of changing Britain's fortunes, because of course they came to power, it was about working people, it was about growth, and then they increased NI, destroying any chance for businesses, workers' rights, the minimum wage. Everything's been a complete nightmare and people are going bust in their droves. She's going to say today, Richard, that Britain needs to forge closer ties to the EU. I've got a question from Brian Goodwin. Can you please, when you have Richard Tice on, can you ask him if reform, when they get in, will undo immediately all of Labour's deals with the EU that bring us closer to Van der Leyen's bosom?
Well, that's one way of putting it. But yes, I am looking very closely at everything that this government do. Why would you want to handcuff yourself to a failing, sinking economic model in the European Union? It may have escaped Rachel Reeves's notice, but yeah, Germany is flatlining at best and has been in recession. France is flatlining at best and is in complete chaos. The last thing we should be doing is getting any closer to the EU. And
isn't it a betrayal of the British people, Richard? Because I thought a referendum said we wanted to leave the EU. It's betrayal, isn't it?
Well, at the end of the day, the British people wanted to take back control so that we're in charge. We can make our own rules, our own regulations. And some will get right, some will get wrong, but it's our responsibility. And the last thing you should be doing is giving that back to a failing economic model. And maybe Rachel Reeves should actually take the advice of the new chief of Renewable UK. Get this, everybody. The chief of Renewable UK is now advising drill, Britain, drill. I mean, it's absolutely brilliant.
The boss, this is absolutely...
He's also saying that we should look again at shale gas. I mean, this is fantastic.
Well, this is absolutely true. This is in the Daily Mail today. You've completely done me. I was about to ask you that. It's brilliant.
I normally do you, Jeremy.
What? Sorry, A&1, I'm not called James. And why have you got an issue? I know you don't like the relationship that Isabel and I have, but you're going to have to deal with it, Tice Man. Just because you eventually put a ring on a finger, don't get upset. Even the boss, I love him, even the boss of Britain's wind farm trade body today tells Millipede you should allow North Sea oil and gas production. So I want to put this to you because this was a massive thing for us yesterday. Because, you know, yes, Straits of Hormuz, yes, oil prices, yes, ships, blah, blah, blah. I don't understand, and we talk incessantly about how this Labour government doesn't seem to have any sort of common sense business ability. I'm just painting you the picture I painted somebody yesterday. I'm in my house, Richard, and I'm 120 billion in debt. I really can't even afford to service the debt. But
Big house.
But what?
Big house you've got, Jeremy.
Oh, don't start. Under the garden, I've got 120 billion plus worth of a reserve, but I won't use it. Hear me out. But what I will do then is buy that from somewhere else at more cost to screw the people I'm representing. I don't genuinely forget politics a minute. That makes no damn sense, man, at all, does it? None.
None at all. It's even worse than that, Jeremy, because in the North Sea, where the line is between the Norwegian part and the UK part of the North Sea, just to the right of the line, the Norwegians are exploring and producing from newly discovered fields that go under the line. So they're literally taking, borrowing, stealing our own energy treasure. And what are they doing with it? They're selling it back to the United Kingdom. That is not only financially negligent, in my view, it's criminally negligent. And Rachel Reeves is utterly, utterly clueless about
and the
all
man
of this.
who I think, and we've talked about this incessantly, and I will not give up on this, I think Ed Miliband is probably one of the most dangerous politicians in my lifetime. This man, we talk about Labour bankrupting the country, Richard. I mean, every time there's been in my life a socialist government, we've ended up with no money, and that's no respect to what the Tories did. But I would love to... but you're in Parliament with him. If you said to Ed Miliband, Ed, listen, weirdo, we're going to go £800 billion in debt, right? Everybody is going to be screwed. Petrol's going to go through the roof. Food prices are going to go through the roof. All to achieve something that nobody... I'm putting this in real layman, so nobody really gives a toss about because it's only 1% of carbon emissions across the world. When all is said and done, you are going to finish bankrupting the very people you say you represent. What would he say? Just sit there, wouldn't he, and go, no, you don't understand. Is he deranged? Seriously?
Well, he'll probably go outside and play his ukulele and start singing again. I mean, it's that bad. They just don't understand.
No. And
their whole arguments collapse when they say, oh, but there's an international price for gas. And I then say, OK, so why is the US gas price a third of ours? At which point they look at me and realise they've been completely and utterly done over by someone who understands what on earth is going on and that their deranged, ideological, zealot-like approach, their love of Greta Thunberg and all things green, which is now, green has now turned sort of Islamist extremist. I mean, the world has gone completely and utterly bonkers.
I was going to say that to you. I was reading something from old Dave, Zach Polanski the other day, you know. I was reading something, and it did strike me as I was reading all about his views on everything that I haven't heard mentioned from any Green candidate anything about the environment. There's not a tree hugger in sight. Her maiden speech, that Hannah Spencer, who looked like something out of Balamory the other day in the House of Commons, was all about her Muslim friends and her trans siblings. Not the mention of a tree. So I think we should frack, because usually it's them lot that get up. But honestly, mate, you're right. What has happened to common damn sense? You've got this asset, your people are struggling, prices are going up. Instead of taxing us more, give us some damn incentive by using what we've got.
Exactly. And the simple analogy that I think people enjoy is when you say in your large house that you've got all this energy treasure under the floorboards. And what I say is, when someone sort of gives you that house when they pass away, what you'd probably do is you dig up the floorboards using a screwdriver, take out the treasure, pay off the mortgage, and carefully put the floorboards back down again using your screwdriver. I mean, you probably have a man to use to use a screwdriver, but you get the point, Jeremy. We should use this energy treasure and pay off our mortgage and have cheap energy.
And I think the best bit out of this discussion is your inability to run a screwdriver for floorboards. And I love you for bringing this up. It's going to be a headline today from Richard Tice in the Mail. Even the boss of Britain's wind farm trade body today in the Mail tells Miliband, allow more North Sea oil and gas production, we're skint. You couldn't make it up, could you, Trick? You couldn't.
Trick? I mean, it really is it's common sense. It's not a trick. It's basic common sense. If you've got treasure, offshore, onshore, it's actually our patriotic duty to use it for our children and our grandchildren. And we need to spread this message far and wide. It is our patriotic duty. Lincolnshire Gas for Lincolnshire jobs, for Lincolnshire growth. Yorkshire Gas for Yorkshire jobs, for Yorkshire growth. That's what we need to remind everybody, and we can have cheap energy again. And that's the thing that creates growth. It happened in the 80s and 90s. We can get it back. We can encourage more exploration. Norway, by the way, last year, I think they opened some almost 50 new production platforms, wells. And the UK, a big fat 0.
Final question, because you shuffled when I asked you this. I'm going to go full circle. Donald Trump, has he completely belittled Starmer?
Well, he's pretty cross with Starmer. That is clear, and he speaks in his own terms. He is, he's very disappointed. He thought he could rely on a trusted ally when needed, and his request wasn't unreasonable. You've got these important bases strategically located, both in the UK and in Diego Garcia. Would you mind if we can use them in order to help carry out a geopolitically very, very important mission in order to defend us all in the West and prevent us from being attacked at some point, which was inevitable, by an Iranian regime that was trying to build nuclear capability and ever longer range ballistic missiles that they would have rained down on Europe at some point.
Mate, legend, thank you so much. I won't show. Do you want to see the picture of my neck before you go? Just to give you an idea. This morning has been a disaster. The man that's usually here. The only way, if you're looking on screen, that they can stick the microphone to the back of me today is with a sticker, and it's got fragile on. That is the back view, Richard Tice, of this morning. What do you make of that? I am fragile.
Yes, you are fragile, and I think we should look after you carefully, otherwise you might break.
Brilliant. So good to hear from you. Lovely. The Deputy Leader of Reform, Richard Tice, 7:22. Morning, Dan.
Morning, JK. It's Dan from Kent. Napoleon, we all know what happened to him, once said, do you want success in the world? Promise everything, deliver nothing. And that sums up Labour in a nutshell. Great show.
think Donald Trump has a plan post-war?
A couple of weeks ago, when he started this off, he made a speech saying help would be on the way for the people. There was going to be regime change.
He appointed Mandelson against advice. We know this to be true. If this was a Conservative Prime Minister, the wider left would be absolutely screaming for his resignation.
Government's announced this afternoon, we're setting up a people's panel to work out exactly how you want us to roll out these digital IDs. We don't want them.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, my friends. 7:25. We're live across the UK. You're very welcome to Talk Breakfast. It's the home, of course, of common sense. It's the home of the alarm clock Brit. Whatever you make of today's news, 0344 499 1000. Your text to 87222. Trump not happy with Starmer. I have to say that in an opinion poll this morning, 70% of the UK do not think we should be drawn into a war. And I absolutely acknowledge that. But I just think the flip-flopping is the thing that seems to annoy so many people. You know, yes, I will, no, I won't. You can have the bases, no, you can't. Hamstrung by his own party and what he believes to be international law. You've got Rachel Reeves. You're waking up to the news that she's going to come up with a major speech today as the world teeters on the edge of war, as prices go through the roof, as oil is stopped to go through Hormuz, which means that petrol prices will go up. We're not going to drill. Why would you do? Why would you? Oh, for God's sake, of course you wouldn't drill. No. Rachel Reeves says the way that we can make ourselves start growing again is to forge closer ties with the EU, which just about stands up why they are completely and utterly incapable of making a decision. Can I also point out, front page of The Sun, vape spread killer bug. In a tick, we'll be talking about this meningitis scare. I know many people will, of course, have natural concerns about what's going on. A lot being said, a lot being written. We'll talk about that this morning. Let's say good morning to Carl. Morning, Carl.
Sorry you're feeling a bit fragile today, Jeremy, but let me just say to Matt that I'm 60 years of age. I've always voted Conservative. I voted Reform, though, in the last election. I'm sorry, but you know, the Tories have just lost it. They've lost it. And there's no good saying now all the policies are basically Reform are saying.
It's interesting. Morning, Jez and Matt. This was Matt Vickers who was here. Can I take this opportunity to defend the Tory party, please? To a degree. The Tories had no intention to enact Brexit. That was clear. Boris went through the motions and that was it. Tories were always good at business and would have been better left in power. The winds of change are here and reform, says Paul in Devon, is indeed the answer. This energy package, says Zoe in Lancashire, will amount to... This is what Starmer stood up yesterday and said, I'm aware of what's going on. I will protect you all. It will amount to £35 each. How the hell will that touch the sides for families with oil heating? He is an embarrassment. What's even more embarrassing, Zoe in Lancashire, this is the truth, is that will quite rightly be singly handed to pensioners and, wait for it, benefit claimants. So we're back to it again, aren't we? Hard-working Brits get screwed by a government that doesn't care. Jez, says Betty, there's only 3 minesweepers left, 1 for each base, protecting nuclear submarines and 1 for service and training. They towed the rest home to save on crew wages. Simple fact is, Starmer's pretending he has principles, but he spent the UK's operational defence kitty on national insurance hikes and on the benefit system. 7:28. Always good to get a view from America about what Trump is thinking and what he's doing. This is, I love having this lady on, Republican strategist Amy Tarkanian. Morning, Amy.
Good morning.
I was just reading that poll that said that 70% of Brits do not agree with joining this war. I had a really interesting text that I wanted to find. You know when you find something and then it disappears? Yes. Good morning, all. I think President Trump, says Katie in North Yorkshire, I'll read this to you, Amy, is asking for help to keep the straits open or aid keeping them open. I do believe, though, that America are making a mistake, is what many people are implying, that if it had been over quickly, that would have been all right, but it's now going to carry on, and that Trump will be looking for ways out. What's the view on the ground in the States about what's happening in Iran?
Well, I think your text guest is actually correct. That has been a concern of ours from the get-go. Many of us woke up to the announcement that we had attacked Iran, and now the main concern is how long is that going to last? Is it going to be short-lived, or are we going to be pitching a tent and be there for decades? We just heard today that we may be sending upwards of 2,500 Marines. So, you know, we've gone from no boots on the ground now to we're coming through the air, we're coming through the sea. Now we're asking allies for assistance, and now we're going to be sending Marines over. So it does give us cause.
In terms of the American public, the big boots on the ground is the story, isn't it? Because, and I have great love for your country, you know that, there is a history here. Think Afghanistan, think Vietnam, that you go in with presumably the right intentions. It's never that simple. There are rumours, and God knows, I'm just throwing out what we read and what we hear, that the capability of Iran's drone missile attacks or defence systems or whatever have to be supported by the Russians. And then you look at the whole bigger scale. I wouldn't want to lose the argument, though, that these mad mullahs in Tehran have financed terrorism across the world for 25 plus years, and they were building a nuclear capability. But it's a really, really difficult line on which to sort of straddle, isn't it, between I don't want to drag everybody in, but I need to get this done. Do you think he's made a mistake going in, Donald Trump?
Well, obviously, I'm not involved in the meetings, but just from the outside perspective, we are definitely worried. If you're going to be bringing in people too little, too late in a situation like this, then yes, you know, we would like to see things done quicker. I just don't see how going in and cutting the snake off the head is going to be a quick fix. This is something that has been going on for, you know, what is it, 47, 48, 49 years now. And so this is something that has been deeply embedded into their citizens and into Hezbollah, who has had, you know, control over this area this entire time. So this is not going to be just a 1, 2, 3 done strike and then we're going home. This is something that we're going to have to take out probably multiples and multiples of layers of leaders.
I couldn't agree more. A question that might sound stupid: is America, the public? I mean, we had Donald Trump overnight saying, you know, I'm not happy with the UK. Have we become the laughing stock in America, the United Kingdom?
You will be happy to hear that no, you are not the laughing stock. I think it's unfortunate that we do have a situation where if we do have different opinions on how to approach a certain situation, you know, that you're going to be bullied or peer pressured into maybe changing your strategy and your approach, such as Keir Starmer did. But I think that that if you're going to ask for assistance, then President Trump is going to have more respect for you if you actually stand firm in your beliefs instead of being more wishy-washy like what Keir Starmer did.
That's exactly, thank you, Amy. That's exactly what I say. Donald Trump strikes me as the man that even if he disagreed with you, would think more of you if you said, no, that's my position and it ain't changing, accept it or don't. Starmer flip-flops like crazy, and that drives Trump and other people mad. Amy Tarkanian, Republican strategist, thank you very much indeed. Phil in Coventry, when Ayatollah Starmer said to Trump that he needed to ask his team, did he mean the Palestinian ambassador who stroked his arm at Westminster Hall? Possibly. And John in Maidstone makes a really sane point. Starmer has to ask his cabinet and his backbenchers before he makes any decisions now, because the man is not in charge of the country. If you're just joining us, Donald Trump overnight, I'm not happy with the UK. Have a listen.
I was very surprised with the United Kingdom, because the United Kingdom, 2 weeks ago, I said, why don't you send some ships over? And he really didn't want to do it. I said, you don't want to do it. We've been with you. You're our oldest ally. I think it's terrible. No, I was very surprised. I told him, you know, we requested 2 aircraft carriers, which they had, and he didn't really want to do it. And then right after the war essentially ended, you know, meaning they were obliterated, he said, I would like to send the aircraft carriers. I said, I don't need them after the war has ended and won. I needed it before the war. So I was very upset with, not upset, I was not happy
That's
with
the point,
UK.
isn't it? That's the point, right? I don't, 70% of the British public do not think we should be involved in a war in Iran. That's fine, that's people's right. I think we should have done more. It's the flip-flopping. No, you can't have the boats, or you might have the boats. No, you can't have the base, or you can have the base. Amy Tarkanian nailed it. He is governing by, how would I describe this? He's just trying to massage everybody to make sure he's still in power. That is not in Britain's best interest. Sean, good morning.
Morning, Jeremy. Sean from Grimsby. So we're not going to go and help clear the Straits of Hormuz. We're not going to buy oil off the Russians. We're not going to dig our own oil. So what exactly is this government going to do, apart from complain about the oil price? And the reason they're not going to do anything is because they don't pay for their own diesel and their own energy bills. We pay it for them. So it's no concern to them how high the bills get, because this is just funded on expenses by us, you know? Oh, absolutely useless, mate. Great show, mate.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. 23 minutes to 8 o'clock. We're live across the United Kingdom. This is JK on Breakfast. Thanks for tuning in to the home of common sense and the home of the alarm clock Brits. Jez, says Sarah Bird, or even Sarah Bird. Have you forgotten it's St Paddy's Day? No, I have not. Happy St Patrick's Day. How are you? How are the Irish contingent celebrating today? There you go now. Somebody will say, well, are you doing that? One of my best friends is Irish, you know. How are you, da? Listen, let me know. 0344 499 1000. Morning to Martin, Alan, Jez. Says Dickie Arbiter think we're bloody stupid. The royal family must have known what Andrew was up to. The Queen giving him money to pay off someone. Dickie knows more than he's saying. And I believe, says Martin, that the Queen did too. Hello to Katie in North Yorkshire. Oh, we did that about Trump. Thank you very much indeed. Betty, I think Trump has fallen into the classic Middle East trap. I agree with this. Listen to this. You have to finish the job in the first days or all lose their nerve and run away, leaving the terrorists to regroup. IDF know this and are pushing ahead. They can level the 100 miles either side of the Straits and nobody can stop. I think that's a really, really important point. Keith in Wolverhampton, he's in Gran Canaria. He's seen the light. These idiots really haven't got a clue. Speed limits to save fuel, Jez. A car in top gear at 70 miles an hour is more fuel efficient and produces less pollution than a car doing 20 miles an hour in London, because Sadiq Khan's a complete... Yes. This is an alarm clock Brit. Morning to Alex. He says, I'm a self-employed bricklayer, Jez. I earn roughly £1,000 a week. After paying my tax and petrol, I'm left with 680. Check this. I have a neighbour who is on benefits. Never worked, 2 holidays a year, claims everything and loves collecting matches outside the front of her house. Starmer needs to give his head a bloody shake and wake up. 0344 499 1000. I want to come on to another big story, which is all over the front of the Sun newspaper today. Vapes spread killer bug. There has been, obviously, for a couple of days, the stories of a of a meningitis outbreak. 2 people sadly have lost their lives and 11 have been hospitalised in Kent. Some cases of meningitis in Kent have been confirmed as meningitis B, the UK Health Security Agency have said. Now, there's a story that it was in a club and it was vape spread, but I do know as a parent, I think this is really important, that when you read and you hear stuff like that, you will immediately think, oh my God, is it coming here? What should I do? I've got young kids. Everybody is concerned. So a couple of guests lined up to talk to now. Firstly, we say a very good morning to Paul Hunter, Professor of Medicine at the University of East Anglia. Paul, welcome to Talk Breakfast.
My pleasure.
I made that point just then about what people need to know rather than panic about. What do we need to know about what we've read about this meningitis outbreak, Paul?
Well, I think the first thing is that when you just have a single case, it's very difficult. You don't need to share much information at all, other than to the close contacts, the family members of that case. When you have multiple cases occurring, I think the crucial thing that people need to know is what are the early symptoms, and that's important because you can the early symptoms of meningococcal disease is very mild. It can be just very difficult from a bad cold to distinguish from a bad cold, but it can progress very rapidly. So I think the crucial thing that people need to know is how to spot the symptoms of meningitis and know when they need to take their child or themselves to the doctor or an accident and emergency. And that, I think, is more important than anything else.
Sorry, you cut out there, my friend. Could you do me a favour, Paul, in layman's terms? Could you perhaps tell people what to look for? Because I'm thinking, look, I've had 6 kids, and I know about the glass thing with the rash, but I do understand, which is why I wanted to do this. I do understand that it spreads fear, doesn't it?
It does, yeah, and quite rightly. I mean, invasive meningococcal disease is a very unpleasant, very nasty, and very damaging disease. About 5 to 10% of people with this disease will die, and of those that survive, 10 to 20% will be left with some life-changing disability. So it is absolutely a dreadful disease, and it needs to be identified early, because the sooner you start antibiotics, the less likely you are to die, and the less likely you are to have ongoing disability. So the things to look out for anybody who has got a very high temperature, who's complaining about pain in the neck, who has stiffness, so when you try and move their neck, they don't like it, they sort of clamp down. The complaining about pain when the light shines in their eyes, and also the rash, as you've said. And I think any of any combination of those symptoms is a need for urgent intervention to take them to the doctors. If you're in any doubt, phone NHS 111 and they'll take you through helping you to decide what to do. But that's the crucial thing, seeking medical care so you can be on antibiotics as soon as possible.
Paul, thank you. Paul, Professor of Medicine at the University of East Anglia. Let's cross, sadly, a problem with his connectivity this morning. Aaron Ghosh, good friend of mine, the owner of Ghosh Medical Group, who actually I'm going to give a credit to, because my daughter's not very well, as I said. She's currently on her way to hospital, actually. This man last night is such a good friend of mine. He's talking to my wife at 10 o'clock. Thank you, Aaron. How are you, my friend?
I'm very well. How is she doing, by the way?
Not great at the moment, but we'll get there. She's all right. So the thing I wanted to talk to you about, Aaron, is and I just tried it with Paul. People will read, look, vape spread killer bug, 2 dead, 11 hospitalised in Kent, a whole group of teenagers who apparently went to a club. And I was thinking last night when we were speaking to you about Iris, and I was thinking people will naturally fear, people with kids, teenagers, whatever, not just people in Kent. We had a story, there might be one in London. It's really people, it's understandable, it's important people don't panic, isn't it?
Absolutely. And it's not just vapes, it's close contact. And that's what that's trying to say, really. And they've picked on the vapes. And I don't mind that, because if people don't vape, that's great. But really, the reason why this population, so students, teenagers, isn't because they're more at risk. In fact, they're probably the healthiest people that we know are teenagers and students, but it's because they're in close contact. So the way that this virus or bacteria spreads is often by respiratory illnesses. So cough, sneezing, kissing, sharing cans of pop, anything like that. So obviously they've picked on vapes today, but it can be anything where you can be in a close contact. So nightclubs in this particular area, obviously people are breathing, coughing, sneezing in a very, very closed, confined space. But that can also be your flatmates. That can also be when you're going together in exam rooms. So it's any part of university life because people are in such close proximity at that stage.
In terms of this part isn't about criticising, but there has been some questions now from four health officials after they were criticised for waiting days to issue public warnings. And I was thinking about, you know, with what's going on in the war, and I was talking to MI6 last week about terror threat levels, and you can't win, can you? Because if you say to people this is a concern, they'll all jump up and down and go, oh my God, and if you say nothing and try and contain it, then they'll say, why didn't you let us know? I presume the approach of health officials was to try and calmly deal with that. Would that be a fair comment?
I think so, but I think what wasn't mentioned before by the first talker is that actually with meningitis, we see it every year, okay? We do actually have these cases, unfortunately, in universities up and down the country every single year.
Oh, so this happens, right? So this is a really important point. This happens because of the sort of lifestyle that they have, right?
Absolutely. And vaccines aren't always 100%. And because of this lifestyle, they're very close in contact. There's often numerous contacts, so you can get reinfected. But also, what we have to remember is about 10% of people actually keep meningitis, the bacteria or the viruses, in the back of their throat and are absolutely fine. They don't have any symptoms. And therefore, being able to spread it is very, very easy in all of the population. So it's not that sort of we didn't get this, vaccines done. And it's true, if this is meningitis B, 2015, I think, is when the vaccine program came out. So this generation of students would have missed it. So that's probably what we're seeing now as a result. But we also have to remember we need to get those messages out early. We do obviously need to be calm and collected, but that's because this population are very, very at risk of spreading the contamination. And the problem with that is that they are very, very locked together. They're stuck with their housemates. They can't go anywhere else. It's not like they can just get home. They've got exams, they've got other commitments. So it's very difficult for them to change their lifestyle overnight. So we do need to get those warnings out early.
So very quickly to finish, and you're a ledge, I love the bones of you, man. What are people looking out for? No sense of panic, and what should they do? That's really what I'd love to hear.
The key messages I want to say as a GP, so something I see on the ground, yes, we get the rashes and the fevers, and we'll always see that, but they're actually really, really late symptoms. If your friend or colleague is actually suffering with a headache, they're looking really tired, they're getting joint pain, really cold hands and feet, I want you to push them to see a doctor. I want you to actually force them to go and see medical help, because they're actually really, really difficult signs to pick, because we could just think they're tired, they're hungover, they've been partying too hard, but actually they're serious signs of septicemia.
But if they can't see a doctor, let's not have that debate. Go to A&E, right?
Absolutely. Listen, do not wait on this. The quicker you jump on it, the quicker you start the antibiotics. This is actually a very treatable condition if got early.
Listen, I might be biased and I don't care. This man's the legend, and all to do with the Gosh Medical Group. Aaron, thank you so much indeed. Put it in great layman's terms there. This meningitis outbreak, he says, will be spreading, has spread amongst the students, vapes in a club, close proximity. Not a reason to panic. Just be, as he said, you know, just be aware. And if you have somebody or yourself with those symptoms that you know about, you can Google it. He's just said it, you know, cold hands and feet, pain in the neck, feel clammy, all those sorts of things. Some people will immediately try and go to the doctor. Others will go, oh, it's just flu. There's no harm in getting that checked. 12 minutes to 8. We're live across the United Kingdom. 0344 499 1000. Kelvin in Macclesfield. Good morning, Jez. Everybody says Trump is wrong to attack Iran. Know nothing about defence. The question you should all ask is this: what if Trump hadn't attacked, but he knew they had nukes and did nothing? Kelvin, I couldn't agree more. It's just the outcome. And yes, 70% of the poll says that people don't want to do it. That's their right. Andy's in Cheddar. I seem to recall it took the States, our greatest ally, a very long time to engage in in the Second World War. Maybe Trump's forgotten about that. Interesting. Vinny says we can produce loads of oil, but absolutely nowhere at all to refine it. And Kitty in Hove, you could soon be represented, Kitty, by Angela Rayner. Regarding this poll, you mentioned 70% of us don't think we should join the war. I don't remember being asked. I almost certainly do think we should have supported the US and Israel. Have a great day. That's Kitty, 12 minutes to 8. I have to bring on my next guest. I know he was on yesterday, but he was so angry and he tore me a second one that I'm giving him a second chance. Peter Blexley, good morning.
Good morning.
How was last night? Oh, look at you in the floral shirt. What's going on?
Well, I'm here in Jersey, where I'm performing to a sold-out audience this evening, so very much looking forward to that.
I love the fact that you're wearing a floral shirt because you're in Jersey this morning. Is it sunny this morning?
No, it's grey, unfortunately.
Ah, a bit like your hair. Now, listen, this was a bit of a talk exclusive. This is extraordinary. You're just going to go but I mean, this needs talking about. Dozens of police officers, and we've done a sort of, Rick's done one of his great jobs. The talk investigation has uncovered a shocking plan of poor discipline and dereliction of duty across several police forces in England and Wales over the last 3 years. Dozens of police officers have been caught watching porn, playing video games or pretending to be at their desk whilst they should have been keeping our streets safe. 18 officers, Pete, and staff face misconduct hearings after being accused of accessing porn, inappropriate material. These figures were obtained through the Freedom of Information request. At least 11 were fired before they could be sacked or resign before they could be sacked. It doesn't surprise you, that, does it?
No, but across the country, the numbers are even bigger. It all comes down to, well, a couple of things. Number one, a lack of discipline. The D word has almost become a dirty word in some aspects of policing because people think that they have the right to think freely and do what they want when they're in an organisation such as that. Well, actually, you don't. You have to do what you're told. But also, there's working from home that has crept into policing unbelievably. There are detectives working from home, and we wonder why crime rates are so low in terms of detection. It's absolutely ludicrous. So the management, the supervision, it's all failed. They need to reinstill discipline and get people back into police stations. That's if they can find one open.
But this is the reason I wanted to do this today. To me, that sort of sums up what you've just said about this country, not just under this government, but where it's gone to. You have police stations that aren't open. You have senior policemen and women who, in your words, and you've told me enough times, are too busy climbing the greasy pole to actually care about providing the very service that they were put on God's earth to do, which is to protect the public. We have zero visibility of policemen and women on the streets. And you taught me something years ago, which is the way that you deal with crime is to get intel from the local community, and that's the way you deal with people. None of that. And you're right. I told you that story years ago about how a mate of mine's dad was a copper. He did 30 years on the beat. He loved it. And he left and finished because he told me, I used to be, if an old lady got burgled, right, and they smashed into her house or broke a window, you'd go round there, you'd mend the window, cup of tea, make her feel good, 4 hours. That was your job. Now you fill out a computer form, probably from home. Nobody gets to see a policeman. You get a crime number, and that's it. And that feeling of the police being around, irrespective of this, is prevalent and sums up where we're at, doesn't it, as a society?
It certainly does. But the current breed of senior police officers will tell you that they're all doing brilliantly. And this is the way forward. And this is modern policing. And that anything that was done in the past, well, they threw that out. They threw the baby out with the bathwater in so many regards. But I've got friends and family that work in the private sector. And I've got friends and family that work in the public sector, whether that be the NHS, education and the such like. And there is such a stark difference between the private sector and the public sector, which of course covers policing. We really need more people from industry, from business, to get into the public sector and start shaking it up, to start making people realise that public service doesn't mean self-service. It doesn't mean that you're going to be paid as a police officer to sit at home on your laptop, booking your holidays, watching porn or playing games.
How can you police an area by sitting at home with a bloody computer? Whether you're accessing porn or booking your holidays or not, how does anybody, whether they are trying to climb the greasy pole or not, how does anybody think that makes sense and that deals with, you know, increasing crime numbers? It can't.
Exactly. And how do you dynamically react if some information comes in from one of your informants on the phone that there's going to be a robbery in an hour or 2 hours, and you're sitting in your home at your laptop many, many miles from the manor that you police? It's absolutely ludicrous. They need to reinstill discipline, get some order into the place. They also need to pay the rank and file police officers better than they do, but then perhaps you'll get some more goodwill and you'll get a better police service.
You'll love this. There's another story in the Daily Mail. Police chiefs pledge era of openness to the public to combat misinformation. Oh, he's looking round the room. They are.
Oh.
They're going to be more open, the police bosses. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm old enough to remember. You know that famous revolving sign outside New Scotland Yard?
Yeah, I love that, yeah.
Yeah. Once upon a time, the Metropolitan Police put on there open, honest and transparent. They're just reinventing the wheel. They're just saying what they said decades ago. It's complete nonsense. We don't need slogans. We don't need press releases. We need a police service that from the very top down to the front line serves the public and not itself.
So we need senior police officers to get their noses out of the sort of promotion trough and give their officers the ability and the confidence to go out and police on the street. Is this working from home because everybody suffers from anxiety and you need to have a more balanced lifestyle? I mean, there's you. You were like the Sweeney, you used to catch people and bang them up.
I would just like to commend and thank you for the line that you came out with, your penultimate line about senior bosses getting away from their desks and supporting the front line. They need to support the front line, but they don't these days. They throw them under the bus at the earliest possible opportunity. And this is why policing is so fractured. It's why morale on the front line is so bad. It's why a huge majority of frontline cops are looking to leave. They can't retain police. They can't recruit good police because the management, the senior bosses are, quite frankly, idiots.
I've got 50 seconds. It's also true that police are going to be encouraged to disclose an arrestee's nationality in case it prevents false rumours. Yeah.
Yeah, well, of course, the data should be collected as to somebody's nationality, their ethnicity, their faith. All that needs to be properly recorded and made public so we can make a judgment call and governments can make judgment call on where resources need to be deployed and who needs to be stopped from coming into this country.
Couldn't agree more. Pete Goodwin says she should be Met Chief for the UK. Good luck tonight in Jersey. The legend that is Peter Blexley in a floral shirt. What a start to my morning. 0344 499 1000. Morning, Nick.
Morning, Jeremy. As someone who's been a Conservative Party parliamentary candidate and a member and activist for 30 years, I can promise you there's not a single Conservative MP left in that chamber who has anything close to do with the views of Margaret Thatcher. These people are as wet as Liberal Dems and as dangerous as Greens. Don't let them anywhere back. And I'm sorry, Matt, you might sound like a nice person, but you're just as bad as the lot of them.
I don't care who you are, as long as you are not on the side of the Zionist oppressors. They are the most evil people in the world, supported by America, supported by the most stupid, ignorant President Trump.
What about the Ayatollah's death? What did you think of that?
It's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. It's like killing the Pope.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Over the past 36 hours, the United States and its partners have launched Operation Epic Fury, one of the largest, most complex, most overwhelming military offensives the world has ever seen. Nobody's seen anything like it. We have hit hundreds of targets in Iran, including Revolutionary Guard facilities, Iranian air defense systems. Just now, it was announced that we knocked out 9 ships plus their naval building, all in a matter of literally minutes. Iran's formerly supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, is dead.
I spoke to you about the situation in the Gulf and explained that the United Kingdom was not involved in the strikes on Iran. That remains the case. The basis of our decision is the collective self-defense of long-standing friends and allies and protecting British lives. That is in accordance with international law, and we are publishing a summary of our legal advice. We are not joining these strikes, but we will continue with our defensive actions in the region.
Mr Farage, would a reform government have allowed US forces to use UK air bases for offensive operations in Iran?
Yes is the answer to your question. I would have said to the Americans, please do use our bases. We will be supportive of you on this.
There were a series of very loud blasts in the area of Dubai that I'm based in. That's in the Marina area. It's a very touristy area, actually. Those blasts were the loudest we've heard yet, but equally we are reassured that they are most likely the sound of interception by the UAE's quite sophisticated THAAD interception kit. That is the Terminal High Altitude Area Defence System.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back and welcome along. This is Talk Breakfast. It's on, of course, the home of common sense. It's the place where you come to give your views on the day's news. JK till 10. If you want to be on as ever, 0344 499 1000. That's my telephone number. You can leave a voice note with Christian, 0344 499 1000. You can text the show, 87222. What are you waking up to? Trump's not happy with Europe. Well, he's actually not happy with England again. Not happy at all with Starmer. He's eviscerated him for refusing to join the war. Well, basically what he did say to him was this, which I don't disagree with. There are 70% of people in this country who think we shouldn't be at war. That is their right. What people are angry about is the lack of leadership amongst this man. I can't make a decision until I ask them, and if this poll tells me to speak to that focus group, to speak to that advisor, oh, for Christ's sake, man, make a decision. You can't have the bases. Yes, you can. You can't have minesweepers. Yes, you can. Where does he stand? That's the whole point. Agree or disagree with involvement, and there's plenty of proof, by the way. America's done this before, gone in to try and deal with the situation with probably great intentions, and it hasn't worked out. Think Afghanistan, think Vietnam. I get that argument. What I don't get is a rudderless government led by a leader who is incapable, absolutely incapable of making a decision and sticking to it, whether it's the right or wrong one. In hindsight, leadership's about having the balls to put your neck on the line. He just won't put his neck on the line. Today, if your day wasn't going great, it's going to get worse, because Rachel Thieves, or Richard III, as I call her, she's decided that the way for this country to get out of the doom loop of misery and suffering, you know, increasing food prices, energy prices through the... Don't drill. No, 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 no. Don't lower tax. No, no, no. I've got a plan, says she in the blue suit. Let's get closer ties with Europe. Oh, I'm sorry, you numpty. I thought we'd left them. I'm slightly confused. What do you make of it all? 0344 499 1000. Jay, good morning.
Morning, Jeremy. Great show as always. There's these polls that are going around saying 70, 80, 90% agree on this, agree on that. I don't know anyone that's been asked. Every time there's one of these polls, I ask friends. I've got no idea. Work colleagues, no one seems to know. No, I haven't voted in it, they say, but no one seems to know. These are the working people, not the people who set up the poll, the four of them, and then 3 out of 4 of them decide that they want to go ahead. Regarding the whole strikes on Iran thing, people are forgetting this. I think it was 2005, 2006 era. The Ayatollah stood up on stage to the Iranian people with Iranian media, not some fabricated BBC media, and he said, if we have a nuclear bomb, we will wipe Israel from the face of the earth. He said that. And they're still going, oh, they're just striking for fun.
See, I'm with Jay, wherever you stand. Actually, let's do this. Are you one of the 70%? Let's hear from you. I want all sides on this. Are you one of the 70% that polls, that we don't know what these polls are, say that Brits are against the war? Or are you like me? You don't really want to be involved, but you do understand there is an importance to our special relationship. There are the things that you could do to support this effort to make sure the world's a safer place without being on the front line. I get all of that. And for Christ's sake, more than anything, do you agree with me that as we hear from a government that today says we might have to ration petrol and lower speed limits, Jesus Christ, we're putting Sadiq Khan in charge of that, that'll cure the problem. Why don't you give some relief to people who are going to work and paying such ridiculous amounts for petrol? Why don't you stop giving money to either the feckless or people abroad who don't do anything for this country? Is that outrageous? I'd love to hear your thoughts. 8722. Start your message with the word talk. Before we go to my next guest, Peter Blexley talking there about that talk exclusive. Coppers working from home, watching porn. Simon Aston says, I love listening to Pete this morning. When I joined the police in 1984, the City of London Police, it was a force to be reckoned with. Something terribly wrong has happened, says Simon in Devon. I think Clive sums up the problem, Simon. He says, we don't need a police service, we need a police force. But you can't have a police force because that might upset people. Finally, Paul in Chislehurst, police officers watching porn and playing video games is nothing new. It was going on 30 years ago. How do you know? This won't be your frontline response officers, more officers doing particular tasks. One that springs to mind is being tasked with being on duty at security suites looking after informants. Very boring work involving sitting around in a room for hours on end. So essentially, Paul in Chislehurst, unless I'm defaming him, was either a police officer who sat around and did these things, or he knows somebody who did. I'd love to know more. Anyway, it's 8:07. It's a Tuesday morning. We're delighted to welcome the First Lady of Reform. What view will we have of a... Oh, it's a different view of the spacious flat. Good morning, Sarah Pochin.
It's not spacious, it's a shoebox.
It's looking increasingly like a sort of... Mark's right. We're getting a 360 estate agent's view of the Pochin pad in London.
Well, actually, my kitchen isn't that tidy this morning, so I thought I'd better angle my camera away from it.
I don't want anybody to think this, but I've been to Sarah's flat and it's lovely. I'm joking. 0344, look at her face.
It's that you have not.
OK. No, I'm joking. Welcome to the show. I really want to start with... I'm going to play this clip because I think it's a really important one, because the whole Trump-Starmer Iran debacle is causing huge debate. This is Trump, who is not happy with the United Kingdom. Have a listen.
I was very surprised with the United Kingdom, because the United Kingdom 2 weeks ago, I said, why don't you send some ships over? And he really didn't want to do it. I said, you don't want to do it. We've been with you. You're our oldest ally. I think it's terrible. No, I was very surprised. I told him, you know, we requested 2 aircraft carriers, which they had, and he didn't really want to do it. And then right after the war essentially ended, you know, meaning they were obliterated, he said, I would like to send the aircraft carriers. I said, I don't need them after the war is ended and won. I need it before the war. So I was very upset with, not upset, I was not happy with the UK.
Sarah, my point is this, and it's a balanced approach, actually. There are polls, apparently, we'll talk about that in a minute, that say that 70% of Brits do not want to be involved. Whether or not he was right or wrong, OK, initially, the problem with Starmer and his distinct style, well, his distinct lack of style as a leader is he never makes a damn decision and sticks to it. And that flip-flopping, no to bases, yes to bases, no to minesweepers, yes, that's the issue here, isn't it?
It absolutely is. The British people want to be led by a Prime Minister that they feel is in control, that understands what the message is to the nation. And clearly, Keir Starmer doesn't know what the message is himself, let alone his inability to tell the British people whether we are supporting Trump. The flip-flopping over the air bases was an absolute disgrace. By giving him permission to use those air bases, we weren't joining the war. We were simply giving him the facilities to use. It's a different issue, of course it is, as to whether or not to actually get involved with resources, whether that is drones or ships or the rest of it. I mean, these are decisions that are hugely complex, and I'm sure that there's a wealth of people behind the scenes negotiating non-stop with the Americans.
And I think that's the point. I mean, I don't care if I disagree with a politician. All I want is some form of consistency so I can understand what is happening. And of course, look, somebody made a really good point. Let me read this to you. I mean, I think this is really, really interesting. John says, I was a big fan of Trump's until he slagged off our lads that served in Iraq. There was no need to jump into this war. They had Iran's number last year with the bombing of their nuclear site. We as a country should not get involved fighting an ideology that we can't win. That is one side of the argument. The other side of the argument, which is really interesting, is Joanna from Salisbury. I'm not against the war, but what the bloody hell do we fight with? That makes us even more vulnerable, in essence, because for years, successive governments have stripped the defence budget to the point that we have absolutely nothing, and we are impotent on the international stage.
And just to put it into perspective, Jeremy, you know, our welfare budget is currently, our welfare spend is currently £300 billion a year. That is a shocking figure. And yet our defence spend is £55 billion a year. And there's 2 points I'd like to make. Firstly, I think the British people feel very, very let down by successive governments, the Conservative government and the Labour government we now have, because of the state of our defence capability. But also, what about just think about these serving men and women that are part of our army, air force, our navy. What kind of message are they getting from the government? You know, they're not getting any clear instructions. Are they going? Are they not going? You know.
And what about the equipment they're not given that they need? I mean, I am so with you. I think that one of the biggest, and you are so right, Sarah, to make the point against successive governments. This is not on Starmer. This is on 14 years of Tories. For some unknown reason, we seem to get to a point where it was the easy thing to do because the Cold War was happening and Putin's a nice man. Actually, what they did was they cut defence spending ridiculously low because they thought the world was fine. And whilst this carried on, people like Ayatollah Khomeini, people like Vladimir Putin, people like that madman in North Korea bought more and more weapons and basically weaponised their countries. I am astonished by that figure you've just given me. I'm going to repeat that for people tuning in. We spent last year £300 billion on welfare benefits and £55 billion on the defence of this nation. The welfare budget, and again, I think it's the biggest thing right now. I know there are many, many big things. That amount of money, any time we have this debate, Sarah, people will ring and text and go, but hold on. Everybody's mentally ill and disabled. No, they're not. There are many mentally ill and disabled people that I am really happy to pay my tax for. But we now have a group of people, a large number of people, who are feckless, have no intention of working, and are gaming a system that's too soft. And if we do not have that discussion, we are going to be even more skint than we are right now. Don't you agree?
Well, a reform government, we've made it very clear, will come in and absolutely decimate that welfare bill. We need to get people in jobs. We need to get our young people who have the highest unemployment rates ever at the moment, the 16 to 24-year-old group. They're not looking for work. They are totally economically inactive. It has to change. We will slash that welfare bill and we will...
How will you do that? And I'm being completely honest, right? So this is an important thing. One of the people earlier said, reform sounds great, but how are you going to do that? I mean, I know how I do it, but how do you slash £300 billion? How do you make people more accountable to the system, Sarah?
Well, the first thing we stopped doing is the online assessments that came in big time through the COVID period, and that was possibly understandable at the time. But we haven't reversed that. We have not gone back to face-to-face assessments. We know the amount of fraud in the system is staggering. For example, we've just heard, haven't we, that if a company takes on an apprentice, they will get £3,000 to do so. Well, I can guarantee you there will be already endless people ready to work that system, take on 20 apprenticeships, get their £3,000 each, and then they'll be gone the following week. You know, there's fraud everywhere. How is it that the student loan situation reported in the paper today, foreign students claiming student
Romanian students,
particularly Romanians, has increased by a third in the last 5 years. How is that possible? £13,000 each, and it's gone up to nearly 80,000 Romanians claiming that money. They will never pay that back. This is where we need to clamp down.
And it's really interesting, isn't it? Because that ideology of, we should care... We were talking earlier about the police with Peter Blexley. They all work from home, or allow everybody to claim this, allow everybody... we've got border officials who go, I know you've got a beard and grey hair and you've got a Rick Redding wing, but we'll pass you as an 11-year-old boy. What? That doesn't... I'm so proud that when they set this place up, they talked two words, common sense. Because to me, Sarah, the common sense in all politics has gone literally out the window. Stand by your position, Trump. What have we got to... Stummer, what have we got today with Rachel Thieves? She's going to say... I mean, this is just... I don't even know how this woman is Chancellor Exchequer. She's going to say, the way to make Britain great again is not to cut tax. No. It's not to make businesses in a position where they can grow. It's basically to forge closer ties with the EU, Sarah Pochin.
Well, that's an utter betrayal of the British people. We voted to leave the EU and it's never been fully maximised. Well, it's never been, in my opinion, enacted at all, the things that we could do now that we are not under the guise of the EU. But just remember the cost. I want the British people to remember the cost of belonging to the EU, the money that was wasted by being part of that parliament alone, let alone what benefit did we ever get? We got these crazy rules, didn't we, on straight carrots and bendy bananas and all of this absolute nonsense. We have been regulated to the hilt because of it. And being this country, we adhered to all the laws. Whereas, of course, the likes of France, they play it all very well, don't they? They say, yes, of course, we'll adhere to all these laws and then completely ignore them all and do their own thing. We do not want to go near that organisation again. It's a gravy train. It's a waste of money for this country. And can you name me one single nation in the EU that economically is doing better than us that we would want to align ourselves with?
Not at all. Listen, I love your kitchen more than your lounge, and we love having you on the show. You are always more than welcome. The First Lady of Reform, Sarah Pochin on Talk Breakfast. Thank you very much indeed. 18 minutes past 8. Let's cross live to Millbank. Always important to get both sides of the view. Shadow Secretary of State for Work and Pensions, Helen Whately. Good look at you this morning. Microphone microphone, headsets, all going on.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you very much.
I just want to throw something at you that Sarah Pochin just told me. And please tell me you are also exasperated by this. The benefits bill in this country under Labour next year will be £300 billion, and we spend epoxy 55 billion on our defences, and then we look at what's happening in the world, Helen.
So welfare spending under this government is going to go up to over £400 billion, £407 billion by the end of this decade. That is the forecast. And what we're seeing is the government totally unable to get a grip of that bill. All we've seen them do is make U-turns and spend more, actually, on benefits. You know, just a few weeks ago, we had the vote on scrapping the two-child cap, and Labour voted to scrap that and spend an extra £3 billion on welfare there. That's money that we've said we wouldn't have scrapped that, we would have kept that because it's fairer anyway, and then we would be able to spend that money on defence and bringing down the deficit and giving us a stronger economy. That's what we need.
Listen, I like having you on, but I have to put this to you because my job is my job. Isn't it fair to say that it's all well and good for the Tory party now in opposition to jump up and down and talk about how defence is not being treated as a priority by this Labour government, when for 14 years... I don't know if you were around, but it starts with austerity under Cameron and Osborne, continued under Theresa May. The defence spending in this country was decimated by the Tory party. It was the easy cut, and it's come back, to be fair, to bite us on the backside, hasn't it, Helen?
I don't think that's true, and actually we did invest in defence and we did modernise our military, and actually very relevant to the situation right now in the Middle East is the fact that we established a naval base in Bahrain, right in that area where there could and should be naval ships and minesweepers who would be able to go and help out with the situation in the Strait of Hormuz, for instance. So actually we knew how important defence spending was. We know how important defence spending is now. As I've said, we've been clear that we'd be saving money in welfare so we could spend it on defence, and we know that we need to spend 3% on defence.
I get that, and I'm just talking facts here. Every single Tory government cut defence. There are less people in our armed forces today than there are people who have come into this country illegally since Keir Starmer became Prime Minister. This isn't just at Labour's door. It would be fair to say that a succession of governments, Tory governments, cut defence spending because there was this thought that we were in a Cold War. I'm not trying to be anything other than truthful here. I think many people have made that mistake. I think that's absolutely a fact. But we'll agree to disagree. Can we talk about Trump, by the way, and what the Tories would do? I mean, I was reading, there's apparently a poll, Helen, out this morning that says that 70% of Brits do not favour being involved in this war offensively. And that's absolutely fair enough. What I can't have as a voter is a man in number 10 who does not have any idea of consistency. He doesn't stick to anything. Even if I disagreed with his policy, Helen, I'd be somewhat more secure in my mind if he stuck to it instead of flip-flopping. No, you can't have a base. Yes, you can. No, you can't have minesweepers. Oh, you can now. He doesn't lead, does he? There's no leadership potential in his head.
I mean, I have huge frustration with Keir Starmer as Prime Minister, whether it's on the one hand as welfare, as we were talking about, his inability to get a grip on the spending, but again in this situation in the Middle East, where what we really need is strong and decisive leadership, and instead what we've got is weak and indecisive leadership. It's not leadership at all. This is a very serious situation. We have our most important ally, the US, looking to us, for instance, to be able to use our bases, important strategic locations, to be able to act against our enemy, Iran. And then we have Keir Starmer saying no, then we have him flip-flopping. I mean, what we need is strong and proper leadership, and we just haven't got it.
Couldn't agree more. I'm sure you'll be aware of this as the Shadow Work and Pension Secretary. Today, Rachel Reeves is going to say that the easiest and best way to make Britain grow again, despite the fact we're billions of pounds in debt, is to forge closer ties to the EU. I've been suggesting all morning what we should do is drill in the North Sea, give back licences and make some money out of the reserves we've got to get ourselves out of this financial hole that we find ourselves in. And that is not massively into the Tories' camp, because, to be fair, we were a lot better off 18 months ago than we are right now.
Well, we should be using our assets in the North Sea. It's ridiculous that Norway's drilling in the same basin, and we've got a government that's saying no to that. But what we should be doing, and what Rachel Reeves should be doing, is reducing the taxes on business, reducing the red tape on business, backing businesses to achieve growth, while what she's actually done is the opposite. Put up taxes on business, put on the red tape. So what we're seeing is we're not getting growth, we're getting growing unemployment going up month and month on month, the benefits bill going up, and then what do? Put up taxes again, spend more. Completely the wrong way to go about the economy. It's madness.
Just overall, when you look at where we're at with this government, whatever side you're on, I'm not going to talk about the Liberal Democrats because that's ludicrous, but when you look at how we're at, where do you see this country in 3 years under this government, Helen?
Well, I'm extremely concerned about what this government is doing to this country, and everybody I talk to is worried too. Whether on the one hand it's businesses just saying, we can't invest, we can't expand, we're just trying to survive because what the government is doing, they don't understand business, or it's particularly young people who are really struggling to get jobs at the moment. There are nearly 1 million young people not in education, employment or training. That's the NEETs. There are 700,000 university graduates who are not in work. These are huge numbers of young people who should be getting on with their lives, who should be in work, and instead, sadly, they are sitting at home.
Listen, it's great to have you on. We really appreciate it. Is that the new studio in Millbank? Bless you, looks great. Thank you so much indeed. Helen Whately, Shadow Work and Pension Secretary for the Tory front bench. 8:25, we're live across the UK. Let's go to Glasgow. Marie, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. 1 minute on breakfast. What you got for me?
Part of me is against the Iran war, but I feel that we could provide a supporting role to Donald Trump and the American forces. The reason that I'm kind of against it is because I don't think we've got, obviously, the military power to go in offensively. I do feel for the people of Iran, and obviously with Iran having a nuclear capability, they have to be, taken out or sorted out and the regime changed. But more so I worry for the Iranian people, and I really want to see change for them.
Do you know what? I couldn't agree with you anymore. Nobody who looks, all those wet liberals, if you look at the Iranian people, right, who are massacred in their thousands by the mad mullahs of Tehran, right, whose lives are awful, who have state media telling them it's great, and they are literally on their hands and knees. They can't even open their mouths without being shot and killed. Literally, no dissension at all. And then you look at also that man, the Ayatollah, and that regime, apart from how it treats its own people, it's building a nuclear facility and it's sponsoring terrorism across the world. I'm with you, Marie. There is every reason to want to take those people out, but we do not... But you see, my argument is if we don't have the capability, you deal with Trump by saying to him, listen, mate, I'm being straight with you. We ain't got the facilities, but you can use the bases. You can use that. We'll do whatever we can. We can't be on the front foot because I've got absolutely nothing at my fingertips. And to be fair, it's not my government. They've cut defence for the last 20 years, but I'll give you the bases and I'll do whatever I can to help because I care about the Iranian people and I care about worldwide security more than I care about being told off by my own party or losing my job. That's the point, isn't it, Marie?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. This Prime Minister's an absolute disgrace to the country. Absolute disgrace. I would not... why would anybody want to go and fight for this man or join the military? It really is sickening.
Listen, great to have you on, Marie, in Glasgow. We'll say a very good morning to Richard. Disgusted, he can't spell that right, of Wiltshire. Trump and Israel are trying to rid the world of the most dangerous and horrific regime and ideology since Hitler and the Nazis. Starmer and the Labour Party have sent the message that we are aligned with the regime because we don't want to upset members in our midst. We should have immediately approved Trump's request to use our bases and immediately have prescribed the IRG, absolutely, and the Muslim Brotherhood as terrorist organisations. But Richard in Wiltshire, right, don't bother messaging me again, OK? I mean, you're entitled to your opinion, but on your message you've put Jeremy Vine. You can sod off. Morning, Dave.
Morning, Jezza. Dave from Manchester. No, I wasn't polled. Yes, I am in support of the war, but I just wanted to pick up on another point. When Richard Tice asked you, do you take up your floorboards with your screwdriver? Surely the correct response would have been no. With a drill, baby. Drill.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, my friends. Just got 8:30. It's Tuesday morning, the 17th of March, and we're live across the UK with Talk Breakfast. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. This is seriously the place where you can get common sense, because so much of what's going on in the world is not common sense. There is a poll, apparently. Nobody can find out where it's from, and I haven't found anybody who's part of it yet, that says that 70% of the United Kingdom would not agree with joining the war with Donald Trump. And that's absolutely fair. I just threw it out there. Are you part of this? Do you have a view? Martin, no, I'm not part of the 70%. I've got more common sense. If Iran had a nuke, we were third on the hit list. Jezza says, Ben, we should have assisted America in Iran, because terror in our own country can happen, and it has been coming for years. Starmer to me is a disgrace. Jez, I support the war, and I'm 75 years of age. I've never been asked about a poll, says Chris Sheddy. Is this where he lives? I've no idea. I know no one that's been asked and said that they were one of the 70% against this attack in Iran. Go for it. Bomb the tyrants before they do it to Israel. Nathan from Perth. That's in Scotland, not in Western Australia. Jez, good morning. I think we should have supported the United States and Israel and let them use our bases. We should also have been ready to defend. Starmer has made us look weak. Stuart says Starmer will not help Trump, but will be first in the bleeding queue for oil when the boats start moving again. Interesting. Bill says, go Sarah poaching. Go. The current state of readiness of our armed forces is entirely down to Labour. No. The size and the kit is also down to excessive governments over the last 25 years. It's all very well saying mistakes were made, but the only electable party not guilty of this failure is Reform. Good morning to Amanda. Rather than boost the morale of our forces, this is the story last week, that in the midst of World War III about to happen in the United Kingdom, our armed forces held a review where they wanted to know whether soldiers would be happy wearing makeup and nail varnish when they went to war, which just about sums it up. 0344 499 1000. Lovely to have on now a legend. A great piece in today, page 10 of The Sun. Trevor Kavanagh writes, World War III may be coming. How can debt-ridden Benefit Street Britain hope to survive it? Trevor, a very good morning to you. Welcome to breakfast.
Good morning, Jeremy.
I was just given a figure by Sarah Pochin, which even for what I do, terrifies me. £300 billion we'll spend on benefits this year, £55 billion on defence. It is not purely to Starmer. This is successive governments who've taken the easy option whilst maintaining foreign aid budgets and benefit ballooning budgets and cut our defences, and we're now incredibly vulnerable, aren't we, Trevor?
Yes, we are. And of course, the first duty of any government, whichever party it may be, is to defend the nation. And frankly, we are in a situation where we risk being totally defenseless. We cannot afford new warships, and we can't build them in time for the current emergency. We cannot provide the sort of aircraft on tap that we need, nor the submarines, nor even the drone capacity that we should have, because we haven't got the petrochemical industry anymore to provide the plastics that we need to build drones. We're effectively, as Jim Ratcliffe of INEOS, the petrochemical company, points out, we're effectively defenseless.
I mean, that, just going with that, and I mean, is in itself a dereliction of duty. And this isn't down to the Labour Party. This is down to the Tories, and they have to own that. I don't know whether they would admit to owning that. I think it's been an easy cop-out. But if we talk about Starmer, which is the other issue here, and overnight, Trevor, you know, Trump, I'm not happy. Yes, OK, fine. And apparently some poll, I can't find anybody involved with the poll, but a poll says 70% of Britons don't do it. My issue with Starmer is, and it's really simple, I don't care if I disagree with everything you say, right? But stand by it, man. Stop changing your mind. No, you can't have my bases. Yes, you can. No, you can't have boats. So I'll wait 2 weeks, then you can. Is it not fair to say, in your political experience, the way you deal with somebody like Donald Trump is you deal with him by staying consistent, playing your part and sticking up for the truth about this country? If we're not in a position to help him, or Starmer doesn't want to help him, stick to your bloody guns, man. But he doesn't. The flip-flopping is what drives people insane, Trevor.
But that's what you've got. I mean, Starmer is a flip-flopper. He doesn't study the situation and then make up his mind according to the facts. He's always looking for another fact to get him off the hook. And there isn't another fact to get him off the hook on arguments like this. We are either in or we're out. And we have to argue, if we're out, a principled argument, a principled stand, which justifies our decision to abandon basically our closest and most important international ally.
Great piece in the column when you said, old duffers like me, born amid the ruins of the London Blitz, sometimes wonder how today's mollycoddle generation could cope with another real war. I think that's fantastic. They couldn't, could they?
Well, I really don't think they could. I mean, look, hang on. There is a segment of our young people who are still very robust, and they would rally to the flag. They would fight for king and country. But there is a very significant minority who wouldn't lift a finger and would resent any suggestion that we are running to the aid of an ally, particularly the great state in America, and maybe even more particularly Israel.
And I mean, I just had a picture sent to me by my daughter, who's out celebrating St Paddy's Day already at 8:30, and she always tells me, you know, she's been in lectures where they'll say Britain's responsible for everything wrong in the world. Our history is a disgrace, and we should apologise. That ideology is spreading. I can look at the United Kingdom in its entirety and be quite depressed about things right now, but one thing's for sure, if you don't, as you said, defend your country in the most robust way, you end up in trouble. And to bring it back to how we started, Trev, which is what your article's about, you know, this ballooning welfare budget. I mean, what did he try and cut, Starmer, some months ago? A ridiculously inadequate $5 billion. And by the time all his MPs had jumped up and down, he didn't even manage to cut anything. And it needs more than $5 billion. It probably needs to be slashed by $100 billion, and we need to make savings elsewhere and spend it in the right ways. Doesn't have the courage, the political fortitude to do that, does he?
I'd vote for you as Prime Minister immediately, Jeremy. You know, going back to this attack on our history, I was walking past the National Gallery in Trafalgar Square yesterday, and I heard a young tour guide lecturing these innocent elderly visitors to the capital about the iniquities of the British Empire, how it stole and rampaged through the world, stealing arts and enabling slavery and so on. And I actually turned around and went back to them and said, do not believe a word this man says.
We ended slavery. We ended slavery.
This is the official tour guide telling visitors to our country.
Do you know why I love having you on and I love doing this? Because you know, my dad's no longer here, but he would be. Maybe I am turning into him. Britain was proud of itself. Yes, Britain's made mistakes, but we seem to look backwards. We seem to be apologising for almost everything. But do you know what really sticks in my gut, Trevor, is all these people who either come in here illegally or are brainwashed by an ideology. Excuse my French. Why don't they just sod off somewhere else? Because you patently don't like my country. You patently take from my country while slagging every part of my country off. And I don't even understand why you want to be here. That's the real thing for me. If you're going to come here or live here, play your part, be part of it, embrace it and help it. Don't slag it off whilst we're wiping your backside. To me, that's what's wrong.
All of that is true too, but the important thing that I think we should worry about is that, for instance, this tour guide was British. He was white. He was quite young. He was the product probably of our education system, our universities, our colleges, all of which denigrate our history as much as they possibly can. They're looking for grievances that they can pick the scab off. Anything that they can point that is derogatory to the British record through 2,000 years of history.
Do you think they'd be here with their mollycoddle lives unless the people, their forefathers and mothers, had fought for the rights and the liberties that they fought for? Do you think these kids, and I'm with you, it's one of my bugbears, do you think they've any idea of not only hardship, but should they not understand the gratitude that we should have? I mean, when people say to me, oh, Winston Churchill was a racist, well, he'd be German, you idiots. I don't even understand it. And maybe that's an age thing. And I rail against the fact, and I hope you're right, I want the younger generation to be aware and to be proud of this country, even where we are in the world right now.
Well, I think the big problem is, as I say, it's partly education, Joe, but it's also the left-wing tendency and ability to seize the language.
Yeah.
I mean, they are the ones who, right from the beginning, silenced any criticism of immigration by branding anyone who was opposed or had an argument against as racist and fascist. And the same applies now to genocide, a word which does not apply to any current conflict in the world, but it's being brandished around as the hallmark of where the evil is being committed. And as long as you've got the language and the ability to inflict it on people who are not fighting back, they will have the dominancy. And I think that we face, don't forget that I pointed out in the article that it's 80 years, 8 decades since we last were involved in a conflict as a country, a serious conflict where we actually suffered the consequences here in Britain. And people have totally forgotten that. That's 3 generations almost. And that memory has gone. And all they can remember now is the fact that they've got social media in which they carry out their own form of propaganda, talking to idiots on the other end.
I was remembering, as you were speaking, the old man in a care home during COVID and going to see him. It makes me smile. Going to see him through the glass. And I made the mistake of saying to Patrick, you all right? He went, of course I'm all right. I was about 3 weeks in. I said, what? He said, well, we did this for 6 years. He said, there's more food than we ever had with rationed and the doors are locked and the women can't get away from me. And I thought to myself, do you know what? I mean, I know we laugh, but that resilience, that fight has gone, man, hasn't it?
Well, absolutely. I mean, all you've got now in its place is anxiety and prescriptions and people ducking off work because they're nervous about going in to talk to people. I mean, you know, this is, I think it's an epidemic which is going to be very, very difficult to reverse. And were we actually to get to the point of having to fight to defend this country in the way we did 80 years ago, I do not believe the majority would be a vote for fighting to defend king and country.
Couldn't agree more. Listen, I was going to say it's a bit like talking to a dad, and don't take that the wrong way. I love having you on, Trevor, and the article today is utterly fantastic. Sun, page 10, Trevor saying, World War III may be coming. How can debt-ridden Benefit Street Britain hope to survive it? Thank you so much indeed. Trevor Kavanagh, 17 minutes to 9. We're live across the UK. Talk Breakfast. Mark, why is nobody asking these 70% that don't support the war, if Starmer orders the killing of 40,000 protesters in this country, what would they do? Because that happened in Iran. Very interesting. There's a squeak. Good morning, Philip in Colchester. How are you?
Good morning, Philip again.
Do you want to know a fact about Colchester?
It's supposed to be England's oldest recorded Roman town.
No, I was headhunted to get a job as a DJ in my younger years on SGR in Colchester. I did 3 hours on a Saturday night, thought I'd done very well, and the bloke phoned me up and said, you're crap, and fired me. So I only lasted 3 hours. There you are.
Yeah,
Doesn't
what
care.
I wish to ask, we're supposed to have a nuclear deterrent.
Are we?
We know Starmer would never use it. The idea of a deterrent is to deter nuclear war. And our enemies know that Starmer has no backbone. Not that we want nuclear war, but it's in the title, nuclear deterrent.
Listen, I don't... The thing about Starmer is whether you believe there's a deterrent or whether he'd use it. The whole thing for me is about his lack of leadership. And I said it earlier, Philip, and I do stand by this. I don't care if I would disagree with you and stand shoulder to shoulder and have a debate all day and we've got different views. This man doesn't have a view on anything. There is nothing within him, in his DNA, that says, I believe in that. He uses every excuse, international law, the MPs, you know, the coalition of the willies, as I call it. There's nothing in my being that thinks this man has anything to do with the word conviction. Philip in Colchester, thank you very much indeed. Have I got to do this? Right, it's 8:45. I'm going to do this. I'm going to sell this brilliantly to you, ladies and gentlemen, because this... Don't look at me like that. I'll do it. We are giving you... I actually have to say, I've been to the British Grand Prix before, and it is fantastic. I won't be going this year because it's my birthday weekend. Sunday the 5th of July, we are going to give you the full Racing Green trackside experience. There's 2 hospitality tickets with almost everything. You'll meet everybody, go everywhere, racing simulators, music, food, booze. You can get a chance to meet It's unbelievable, this opportunity. It's the ultimate setup for race day. It's Sunday the 5th of July. This, my friends, is how you could win.
For your chance to win, text TALK to 83338. Text costs £2.50 plus your standard network rate. Or call 0343 418 7260. Lines close 20th of March 2026 at 4 p.m. That's when you need to answer your phone if it rings. 18 plus UK residents only. This is a network promotion. Full T's and C's at talk.tv/win. So for your chance to win, text TALK to 83338 now.
Seriously, don't miss out. Fantastic day. It's all there on screen. Text that number. Sunday, 5th of July, the British Grand Prix. I don't know if you're into Formula One, but it is an amazing spectacle. You have a great time. Ahead of 9 o'clock, Therese Coffey, who used to be the Deputy Prime Minister under Liz Truss for 45 days. She's on this show. Who are we talking to now? I'm having a nightmare this morning. Morning, Tim.
Hi, Jezza. Great show. Just want to say, I don't know why everybody's so surprised about Keir Starmer's flip-flopping. After all, during COVID, he was nicknamed Captain Hindsight. The guy's got to go. Can't make a decision. Doubt that he even gets himself dressed in the morning. Great show.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, my friends. 12 minutes to 9. Yeah, Julia here from 10 o'clock. Ian Collins, the housewife's choice from 1 and Kev, sounding great on drive time from 4 o'clock this afternoon. That's how we line up on Talk. It's breakfast till 10. It's 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. Whatever you want. Apparently there's a poll out today that says 70% of the United Kingdom doesn't agree with being in the offensive side of the Iraq war. June says, I've asked all my family and friends and not one has ever been asked to do a poll. Phil Bellwood says, the size of our forces and funding is an issue, obviously, but I think people have forgot that we can and have done all around the world with much less. Even D-Day was short-staffed. The British spirit won out with fishing boats, conscripts, volunteers and allies. Leadership, courage and conviction to do the right thing is what we need, and it's not something you see, is it, in this government? 11 minutes to 9. We're always into getting new people on. We're delighted to welcome a member of the House of Lords. She served as Deputy Prime Minister of this country, also Health Secretary, Work and Pension Secretary, Environment Secretary. It's a long list. Baroness Therese Coffey, a very good morning.
Morning to you, Jeremy.
How is life away from the madness? Are you enjoying it?
Well, it's still pretty busy in the House of Lords, but it's a different sort of vibe and a different sort of pace. But detailed scrutiny is what we do best in terms of legislation. I have to say, holding the government account is not quite so straightforward.
There's so much I want to talk to you about. I'm going to start, actually, obviously, we'll talk health in a minute about meningitis, but what's going on in the world, Therese? And I have to ask you, and I know you've been somebody who's very, very honest. I don't blame Starmer. I blame successive Tory governments. I blame 20 years. We find ourselves in a position that cutting our defence budget, which I would have thought was the first duty of any government, is to defend its country. We are patently ill-placed in terms of how we look in the world in terms of our defences. Starting with Cameron and well beyond, it was always an easy cut. Turns out that was a bad decision, doesn't it?
I think historically, actually, the UK has continue to spend over 2% of its GDP. It used to be one of the very few NATO countries that did that. I've got no doubt that there have been definitely a number of issues in terms of equipment procurement and some of the other factors that we're seeing now. But equipping with the 2 aircraft carriers, obviously a big difference, and then more recently designing more modern ships. But I appreciate a lot of this takes time. Meanwhile, funding has continued, of course, to support our nuclear deterrent. So I think there's a variety of ways that people can consider whether we are ready for a war on our own today. I think the answer for that is no, and hasn't been required for a very long time. That's part of the point of being in NATO and making the contributions that we do. But inevitably, does seem what embarrassing that it seems been so slow to get things like HMS Dragon out. And our relationship with Cyprus is very special.
Hindsight's great, and what I love about these conversations is people always just are very honest and open. In hindsight, successive governments shouldn't have cut the defence budget so badly, should they?
I'm not convinced that defence spending is actually being cut. I appreciate it may not have kept up with aspects of inflation, and that's where we've seen a big change, I guess, in what's happened. But in terms of its proportion of our GDP, which is the usual way of kind of benchmarking this, that from my recollection has not gone down. But inflation has definitely harmed some of the activity, but so has project management. But it's key that we support the government in trying to make improvements. But some of this still relies on judgment and speed of agility and making those decisions on where we deploy and how we deploy, including
Just talking about the government before we talk about meningitis, you were around a few prime ministers. I can't even imagine how many. Deputy Prime Minister to Liz Truss, Boris Johnson. Who else did you serve under? Theresa May?
I served, I'm one of a handful of former MPs who served under every Conservative Prime Minister.
When you look, without making it personal, at this man, and I wanted, today I used the example of 70% of polls of people saying we don't want to go to war. What I, as a voter, feel massively about this man is that there is no leadership, there's no courage, there's no political DNA. Even if I, Therese, would spend my life disagreeing with everything he says, think of Corbyn, I had some sort of respect for Corbyn when he stood entirely on his principles and nearly beat Theresa May. This man doesn't stick to anything. I don't think we should kowtow to Trump, although I think we should... Bases, yes, no. Minesweepers, yes, no. I get the feeling that a man who came to power saying he was going to put country before party has turned out to be a complete and utter liar on that front, because he seems to make decisions entirely on his little circle and how it does for him politically. Would you agree with that?
I think a long-standing criticism is that he's a lawyer, not a leader. Yeah. And it does seem that he will U-turn on the drop of a hat at the flick of a poll, and that is concerning. But I will also say I don't have access to the information anymore that the Prime Minister and his current cabinet do. So I don't want to overly judge on the situation right now. I think what's worrying, though, is a lot of investment went into the relationship with President Trump, understandably. Yeah. And actually, President Trump is the person who said he didn't want to be having wars. But when things like the Five Eyes intelligence are at risk of that not being shared because of the current inaction by the government, that is worrying, not only in the short term but the long term. And it's those long-term relationships, the messy handling of the Chagos Islands, the Diego Garcia base, all of this, the lawyer, not a leader, not considering what is really in our country's best interests. So that is those are what worry me.
Completely. Got a couple of minutes more. Let's talk about this meningitis scare. I'm at pains to, Front of the Sun says it was about vapes. I'm at pains to sort of calm people down, and people will get concerned about this. 2 people have died, 11 still in hospital. They say it started in a nightclub, close proximity, etc., etc. You were Health Secretary. There's some criticism this morning. They've been criticised for waiting days before issuing that public warning. They're damned if they do and they're damned if they don't, Therese, aren't they?
I think that's fair. That on Saturday, the UK HSA was informed. They started work on the close contacts. Clearly, this has spread more quickly than they expected, and fortunately, they've now identified specifically which strain it is, so that is useful. But it is important that people get vaccines. It so happens young people have not been offered this vaccine routinely, except since 2015. So I think there is a question now for the government to make that decision, recognising this is an unusual expansion of meningitis. I've had meningitis myself in the past. Should they proactively start offering the vaccine?
Without fearing people, is there a danger, because I haven't got long, bless you, is there a danger this could spread nationwide in your experience?
I think it's unlikely, but there are definitely clusters. And at the moment, the meningitis vaccine is actually available for treatment of other diseases quite freely. It's provided to try and stop gonorrhea, as an example. So it's being deployed around the country. I think that the government should consider being proactive about university students and offering everybody in that bracket the opportunity to come forward and get a MenB vaccine. I think that would be a sensible step.
It's only been brief, but I'm delighted having had you on. Will you come on again?
I'm sure I'll find the opportunity to come on and speak to the other Jeremy, as it were. Can be cut off another time. I'll very happy to come and chat to you.
Lovely, thank you very much indeed. Therese Coffey, 0344 499 1000, text to 87222. Morning, Adam.
Hi, Jezza. Fantastic show as always. Adam from Bournemouth. The question you ask: would you fight for your country? Absolute 100%. I live here, I was born here, proud to be British. People like Starmer, Jez, they come and go. He's a wet fish. We're not fighting for him, we're fighting for the country, if it ever comes to it. And do you know what? America don't always get things right, and we could argue and say, should they not? But let's be honest, yeah, they started bumming us. Starmer would soon want us to actually do something about it. So the answer is 100%, mate. Anyway, fantastic show, Jezza.
We are here to support our people of Palestine, of course, and Iran. It's pretty clear and evident. And the massacre of 165 girls. But our blood is considered cheap, but it's not. It's just as equal. Humans are all equal.
What about the bombing of the Ayatollah? What did you think of that?
He was destined for that. That was his destiny, and he fulfilled his dream. He died for the cause of his belief.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk. across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, my friends. It's gone 9 o'clock. We're an hour away from Julia Hartley-Brewer. She's here from 10 ahead of that with some great guests and your involvement as ever. 0344 499 1000 for your voice notes and your calls, and text to 87222. Jez, I'm a veteran, and listening to Therese Coffey, she's fundamentally wrong. I served for 10 years and everything I know is gone. Everything. Our GDP needs to be 5% for the next 10 years. The reason I said to Therese Coffey about how the state of our defences cannot be down to Labour solely is that we know, do we not, that for the last however many years, successive Conservative governments saw it as an easy way out. We're in a cold war, everything's fine, let's cut it, cut it, cut it. Not international foreign aid, let's keep that going, let's cut our defences. And I agree, the people who say, well, isn't the number one duty of any government to defend its people? Yes. And there's no doubt that that's proven to be a bad decision. Let's also point out that at the last election, it was only 2 weeks out of the vote that Sunak said, we're going to spend 3% of GDP on defence, not in the 2 years that he was the Prime Minister. So much to talk about. You're waking up to the news. Trump's not happy with Starmer. Starmer's not happy with Trump. It's all going on. For me, it's about leadership. If you disagree with Trump, stick to it. You can't have a bases, yes, you can. You can't have a minesweepers, yes, you can. Grow a pair, man, and stick to what you're saying. I'm slightly concerned that Richard III, or Rachel Thieves, as I like to call her, is going to make a speech today where she says the easy way to make Britain grow again is to forge closer ties with the EU, not to cut taxation and make it, you know, beneficial and good for businesses to flourish and employ people. We've also talked about what's going on in terms of oil and gas and the price of petrol, and also what it means to care or fight for your country. Morning, Rog.
This is for Talk. It's Roger Roadside here from Enfield. G'day, Jezza. Hope you're having a good morning. Listen, the difference between D-Day and us being short-staffed there and still doing really well in that war was that the majority of the country was Indigenous at the time, and you actually had a country full of people who were interested in defending King and Queen and country. So I think it's different nowadays because, I mean, especially in a lot of the capital cities and London and Birmingham and Luton and Manchester even, it's just a hodgepodge. And I think the only thing that Sir Keir Starmer, the original Dalek from Doctor Who, said that was true was that we are becoming, if not we've become, a country or a nation of strangers. And I think other countries who potentially might want to take advantage of that could do so quite easily. Anyway, hope you're having a good morning. Batten down the hatches.
Love it. Is he Aussie or New Zealand? I'm saying New Zealand, because New Zealand raised the voice at the end of every octave like that. He makes a point. Do you remember when Starmer said we're an island of strangers? That was quickly rejected. I mean, he did a massive U-turn on that. Listen, here's a man, and I'm glad to call him a friend. He comes on every single week. He represents the Labour Party. He's one of the few to put his head above the parapet. He's leading the sort of rebels' charge against the ridiculous, let's drop juries. We say a very good morning. What jumper will... Oh, it's a very plain, boring shirt. Carl Turner, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Jeremy. It's lovely to be with you.
What's happened to the colourful jumpers? Somebody said last week you looked like Rod Hull and all you needed was a bird with your hand up its backside and it would have been Rod Hull and Emu. What's going on?
I did a TikTok wearing that jumper with my little girl a few weeks ago, and the comment she was telling me was that it was very nice to be with a granddad having fun. So my missus advised me to wear something a bit different today.
Try taking the 2-year-old out. If you're me, they go, how old's your great-granddaughter? Shut up. Carl.
I think you've got about a dozen kids, haven't you, Jeremy? I don't know how you do it.
Yeah, and I pay for them, unlike you. Anyway, here we go. Listen, I'm not going to tell you how to do it. I've no idea. Mate, so much to talk about. Trump says overnight that we were once the Rolls-Royce of allies. Starmer, and he has a point, has said, I don't want to join this war. And a poll, we can't find anybody that was asked, but a poll says, and we'll give you that, 70% of people agree with that. I personally don't, but that's fine. What I don't agree with is you can, you can't, you can, you can't, you can, you can't. I would respect the man more, Carl, if he said, this is my position and I ain't... You know, you remember the old lady, you know, this woman's not for turning, you can. I think he's damaged the relationship by not having the balls to stand up to Trump and fight his corner in a more proactive way. What would you say?
Well, I think it's fair to say that the electorate are unimpressed when they see politicians, especially leading politicians, flip-flopping. Are we either in, where are we with this, is the question that people are asking me when I speak to them in the local pub. I don't knock doors at the minute, Jeremy, because I daren't knock doors, because the response you get when you say, hello, I'm from the Labour Party, is not very pleasant, I have to tell you. So people are cheesed off. But look, I think the PM has been right to stand up to Trump on this. We don't know why we're in there. The regime change was the first idea. Then it was the proliferation of nuclear deterrent that the thought Iran was up to. We've got to learn the mistakes, I think, of what happened in Iraq. The reality is most people would say that the world is better to rid the world of Saddam Hussein. However, what came next was a bad thing. If we go into Iran, in my view, people will be saying, why on earth have hundreds of people turned up on the shores of Dover claiming refugee status? That's a problem for us.
It's a problem for you because your government hasn't got an answer to stopping the small boats crisis.
Well, exactly that. We're smashing the gangs. Well, look, at the moment, frankly, in terms of that, we can't smash the skin off a rice pudding, frankly. So let's be honest about what we can actually manage to do. And it's no good saying we're going to do this and that and then do very little is the reality. I don't think any government can stop the boats. That's the truth of it. I think that's the absolute reality.
I disagree with that.
What we've got to do is manage the immigration system to a point where it's fair and reasonable. And that's the thing that all governments have struggled with.
Do you believe that Starmer's flip-flopping, coined a phrase you and me, has damaged the special relationship with America?
I think the special relationship with the US has been damaged for some time, actually. I think the reality is, if you stand up to Trump, he falls out of love with you very fast. But is Keir Starmer right on the policy? At the moment, I think he is. I think 70% of the people who have been surveyed say so. I think that's true. If I speak to people on this issue, they say, don't get involved again, for goodness sake. Look, East still, Jeremy, is a big military recruitment area. And these boys and girls go off to fight in conflict, and tragically, some of them don't come home. So we've got to be a bit more careful, in my view, about getting involved in international conflict. Now, when we talk about clearing the Strait of Hormuz, I think we have to accept the world we're in now. 20% of oil for the world comes through that, I think it's a 21 mile wide strait, and actually we have to be realistic about getting that oil through.
Well, you know what I'm going to say to you now, and this is something that I'm so hot on, and I acknowledge what you said about the 70%. I just don't like the flip-flopping. I actually disagree. I think if you stood up to Trump, even if you spent your life disagreeing with him, he'd somehow reluctantly respect you for that. He made a point overnight, he has to speak to his team and all that. Sarah Poaching gave me a figure earlier, which we checked and is absolutely true, and I really want this from you, Carl. £300 billion will be the welfare benefits budget at the end of this year. 55 billion will be the defence budget. I do not lay this at Labour's door. I lay this at successive Conservative governments. I'll talk benefits with you in a minute. I think it is an absolute abdication of responsibility how successive governments have cut the defence of this country's capability back to the point where we are, whatever anybody says, this is not warmongering, we are vulnerable, aren't we, pal? We are.
Absolutely vulnerable. Look, what Trump has done us a favour, actually, because Trump has said, listen, get on with your own defence and security. The US aren't propping it up like we used to do. Yeah. And the entirety of Europe has relied on the US for defence and security. We're trying to get to 3%. We've promised, I think, to get to 5% by 2035. We've got to do it. That is just the truth. We have to have our own defence and security. When you've got the Lib Dems talking about go and get your own nuclear deterrent and don't lease them from the US and don't allow the US to maintain. It's just absolutely for the best.
Let's not. Like, honestly,
It's
I
fun.
saw him. Have you seen him come on at the party conference dressed as Daddy Cool? And I'm not having an Ed Davey conversation.
I know.
It's ridiculous.
I know, but the point is they come out with these daft stuff, and the reality is we rely on the US. Let's be honest about where we are.
Absolutely, Carl. Completely.
But we need to be more reliant, and we need to improve that. And when you talk about the benefits bill, look, the Labour Party are trying to deal with this, but it has got absolutely out of control. I speak to people in my constituency who are sick and fed up of the people next door who are on the benefits. They're not getting up in the morning and going to graft. They've got third generation people never worked. They're closing the name with the Labour Party. Now, I'm not going to be Ian Duncan Smith on welfare benefits either. I want people who need it to be helped. I think Blair used to call it hand up, not an hand out. And that's where I think the Labour Party needs to be in terms of policy on welfare benefits. We help the people who desperately need the help, and we encourage them into work. And I think that's what the Labour government are trying to do.
The thing is, for me, as a taxpayer, and I've said it repeatedly, and so much of what you say is common sense, which is why I love having you on, right? I'm really happy to pay for... I think it was the greatest invention in the modern world, the welfare state, right? I genuinely believe that. To actually say to people who cannot help themselves, Carl, we will pay a little bit more to help you. But it is fantastic to hear a Labour politician say those words. We are, unfortunately now, in a position where hundreds of thousands of people who are not mentally ill, who are not physically disabled, are gaming a system that is completely too soft. And for the very people that the Labour Party set this up for, the very people I'm prepared to pay my tax for, are missing out. And what happens with your party, and it's true, when he wanted to cut epoxy $5 billion, the backbenchers were uproar. Oh, people will be in poverty. We have to accept as a country, surely, there are hundreds of thousands of people who have not paid their stamp. I mean, somebody said to me the other day, I'd love your take on this, when they were growing up, and I'm 60, you went to work or you went to college. How have we got to a point, Carl Turner, where you've got another choice, which is go to work, go to college, sign on? It's not a bloody career choice, mate, and that's what it's become for so many, and it's fundamentally wrong, and it messes the whole system. That's what needs to be controlled, so that the people who need it get it, and the savings that we make, we spend on things that matter to this country. That's it.
We've got to a situation, Jeremy, actually, where parties of all political persuasions have allowed people to languish on benefits without being encouraged and enthused into getting into employment and training. If you've not done well at school, people have just been left to sit on the sidelines and not have a life. If you don't have a job, you don't have a life.
Nope.
That's the reality. I was a glass collector in a pub at 13. I wanted a pair of trainers. My mother and father were relatively well off. My old man earned a very good living as a trade union official full-time. My mother was a district nurse. They told me, go and get a job and you can buy a pair of trainers. It was the best lesson I ever learned, because actually I've never been out of graft ever since. That's just the truth. And we need to encourage. I had a surgery a few months ago, and I don't want to be disparaging about constituents, but I had surgery a few months ago. Mum and dad struggling on benefits, 2 kids in the household. Youngest child was carer for dad. Eldest daughter was carer for mum. Mum was carer for the son. Dad was carer for the daughter. I said to them, look, what help have you had to get out of this crisis you're in? What type of jobs do you think might be suitable for you to do? And the answer was, we can't work. We can't work. Now, maybe that was right. Maybe that's right. But what you need to do is encourage the kids into a situation where they're looking enthusiastically at getting a life for themselves.
I'm with you. I'm of the mindset that if you allow people to sit who are not mentally ill, disabled, and get into that cycle of, oh, I'm too this, I'm too that, I can't do this. I don't believe it. I think it's actually symptomatic, I'm afraid, also of so much of what happens in this country now, of this generation. And I've seen it. I've seen it on the thing that I used to do. I've seen it. I've seen what happens, and it's no good. The problem is, many on your side and other parties, they won't have the debate, oh, you're going to take the money away from the vulnerable. No, actually, you idiot. We're going to redistribute that money So the vulnerable, who I'm really happy to pay for, are going to benefit, but the people who are gaming the system, and why cannot we as a society absolutely say that, right? Why can't we say that is happening? Let me bring you on to something else, which I'm really interested in bringing. This is from DWP this morning. Your government benefits bill balloons to over 15 billion. This is what really winds people up, to migrant households in just 18 months. I mean, try telling the pensioners you were going to save, what, 3 billion by not allowing them to have any heating. 15 billion on migrant households, people who shouldn't be here. I don't know what's become of us, Carl. That's madness, man.
Well, look, the truth is, people who are here to claim asylum and refugee status are not getting a lot of money. Well, they are being looked after in accommodation, which is costly. They are being looked after on a day-to-day basis with support in the community, and that needs paying for. I don't want those people to suffer unduly either.
What about if they're illegal migrants? Why would we be looking after them if they're here illegally?
Well, because the reality is you can't get them back. That's just the truth. It's no good saying.
I wouldn't let them in.
Send them back.
I wouldn't let them in.
Can't get them back. I mean, their applications for asylum fail very often. The Home Office do nothing about returning them. That's the truth. Office, yeah. If their asylum application has failed, get them back. We've got this idea now. I mean, I nearly spat my cup of tea out the other day when the Home Secretary announces he's going to give up to 40,000 quid for a family to go back.
Mate.
And if they don't take the 40,000 quid, they're going to go back anyway.
And hold on a minute. Somebody said,
hang on a minute. What? If they're going to go back anyway without the 40,000 quid, just send them back.
And what are we talking about? Somebody phoned the show. This is an absolute. I'm so glad you brought it up. The Home Secretary announced £40,000 for migrant families to go back. Somebody phoned up and said, what are you talking about? Migrant monopoly? Take your 40 grand, bugger off to the place that you didn't want to live in because apparently it's so awful, deposit the money in a bank and come back in a dinghy and do the whole thing again. I bring it back to the same thing every time, Carl. What does that say to working people? Here's a question for you. This is really important. This is really interesting. With everything that's happening in Iran, cost of petrol going up, they're talking maybe rationing, oil prices, blah, blah, blah. Maybe you and I are going to have our first Barney. I don't know. The boss of Britain's Wind Farm trade body today has told Mad Ed Miliband he needs to allow more North Sea oil, gas and production. I just want to ask you this. It's an analogy I put to a couple of people earlier. I've got a house and I'm 120 billion in debt, and yet in my garden underneath there's all these gold bars which will pay off my debts. But I'm not going to dig them up, but I'm going to allow the bloke next door whose land encroaches on mine to dig, because he's got a bit, and then I'm going to buy it off him. I'm sorry, I don't understand why this government, and I'm not trying to implement Trump here, it is liquid gold. Why don't we drill the bits off the North Sea and pay our debts off? Don't understand it.
Well, the first thing I would say is it creates jobs. Sharon Graham's the General Secretary of Unite. Why does she support the idea of more licenses for oil production? Because of jobs. It creates jobs and it improves the economy. Well, look, we need a mixed energy economy.
Yeah.
And I think, to be honest with you, and I've said it to Ed directly, we've got to be a bit more flexible when it comes to our own supplies of oil and gas. Let's get on with doing what we need to do for a mixed energy economy, but actually let's think about the creation of jobs. I've got Siemens wind turbine factory in my patch, created 10,000 jobs in the economy locally in East Yorkshire, not just at Siemens factory itself, in the area, in the supply chain, 10,000 very good, well-paid jobs. Now, do I say that windmills are the answer to our prayers on energy production? Not, if I'm honest. But do you know what? I like the jobs, Jeremy.
Yep.
And I like people earning a living, going out to pubs and bars and restaurants and all the rest.
But the point is,
feeding the kids and having a life.
But the important thing is, if you're not spending your money on interest on debts and you're harvesting a natural resource, that money that's being spent on interest can then be spent on making people's lives. I mean, heaven forbid, making it easier for small and medium businesses to survive. The thing about you, which I love, and I'll always blow smoke because I know when I listen to you that you care about your constituents and you care about what you believe in, but you have the ability, which is so abnormal amongst your lot, and I mean that, to actually put principle before you're doing the jury thing, and that's why you're always welcome here, because you'll stick up for what you believe in, and you'll also criticise it if you think people are making mistakes. And by the way, all sorts of politicians make all sorts of mistakes, but your man in number 10 at the moment, it seems to follow him around. I'm not into kowtowing to Trump, but I wish he'd take a position on whatever the hell it is and stick to it. And just to finish, that must be, as a backbench MP, the most frustrating thing, that you have to go and defend a position or explain a position, and then it's a whole switch round. I've got to do the opposite. That must be difficult, pal.
I think the PM's done well internationally on some of the stuff that we've been doing and supporting Ukraine and all the rest of that stuff. But I think in domestic policy, we've just looked like we don't know what we're doing. We look like we haven't a clue and we never had a plan in the first place. And I think, you know, we end up with daft policy on this and that, jury stuff. What an absolute barmy thing to have suggested. Any government, never mind a Labour government, to bring in an idea which does away with the right for somebody who's accused of an offence, which might get them 3 years in nick, doesn't have the right to be heard by 12 ordinary people. Well, that speaks to an authoritarian state, in my view. It should never be something a Labour Party should be doing. And you know what? If this was something happening when the Labour Party were in opposition, we'd be jumping up and down, screaming and bawling, getting on every media show and accusing the Tory government of being authoritarian. That's what would be happening. Yet what we've got now is David Lammy pretending it's a great idea. And the reality is, Jeremy, it's to save a few quid. That's all it's about.
Love having you on.
And then the Prime Minister, Jeremy, the Prime Minister, the man who went to Northern Ireland in 1992 with the Aldane Society of Socialist Lawyers to look at diplock courts, single judge courts, came back and said they're unfair, and then campaigned to do away with them. So we get rid of them in Northern Ireland in 2007, partly due to Keir Starmer's campaign against the idea of single judge courts. Not good enough for Northern Ireland, but good enough for England and Wales. It's an outrage. It's embarrassing.
I'm sending
it makes me feel ashamed.
I'm sending the doctor in for your blood pressure. I've got one final question, and you've got to do me a favour, Carly. A yes or no, because my listeners are up in arms. Rachel Thieves, you know her. She's going to do a speech today when she says that the way to grow our businesses is to forge closer ties with the EU. My simple question is this. Is Rachel Reeves trying to take us back into the EU, Carl Turner?
Well, I think we accept, don't we, that we need to trade on an equal footing with 400 million peoples on our doorstep. I think that's real. It's got to happen. I think we have to have a closer relationship economically. Do I want a referendum to return into the EU? No, I don't. And 74% of my electorate voted leave. No, I do not. But what I do want is a better economy, and I think you've got to work with
lower taxation then. Stop increasing national insurance on small businesses and giving workers rights that mean that businesses are screwed.
I think that was a daft idea, increasing NI for employers. I mean, local authorities were exempt from that. But hang on, what about the voluntary sector? What about the charitable sector? Having to get rid of staff as a result of this NI increase. I think it was badly thought through. I told Rachel to her face, I think this is going to be a mistake before it happened. And then it happened. And employers are saying, whether it's public sector or private, we're having to get rid of staff. It's a daft idea. Then the government have come along yesterday, by the way, and said, look, we've got to get young people into employment, so we're going to give employers 3,000 quid. Well, don't whack their NI up in the first place, and they're maybe going to keep employees employed, for goodness sake.
Can I just say
that well, let me just say, in defence of Rachel Reeves, Jeremy, please.
There is no defence of Rachel Reeves.
I think the customs union is something that we miss the benefits from. and the single market. We need to be serious about the economy and grow the economy. We have to have a better relationship with the European Union.
Listen, I tell you, we disagree on that because I think you should lower taxation. But I'm going to say this because I'm worried about your blood pressure. We've got to finish. If I was ever in charge of this country, just across political lines, you're a proper politician. I respect you. I don't always have to agree, you and me together, but I respect what you say, Carl, and your constituents are lucky people. Good man. Carl Turner, thank you very much, Steve. Jumper next week, kid. A bit bland today. 0344 499 1000. This is Talk Breakfast. Dean, good morning.
Morning, JK. Great show. Dean here from South Wales. The question you asked is, would we fight for this country? Well, during Christmas time, I remember listening to the show on Talk Radio, and you interviewed two old people, both in the 70s, and both of them was diagnosed with cancer. And the pair of them, one of them was sitting in a library all day to keep warm, and the lady, she was driving around on a bus all day to keep warm because they had to choose between keeping warm or having a meal. We've also got the situation with the hotels, where it's an endless amount of money to keep people in there warm and fed, when you had problems here with the old people who couldn't afford to put a meal on the table, and then we're all taxed to death, absolutely taxed to death by the government. And then you've got the royal family shrouded in sleaze, along with the corrupt government. So would I fight for this country? Absolutely not. Not a hope in hell would I fight for this country. And also, how can we fight for this country when our own armed personnel hasn't got any weapons to fight themselves? What are we going to fight with? Pea shooters or water pistols? I don't think so. Great show, Jez. Keep up the great work.
When conflict breaks out anywhere in the world, it has consequences here at home. Talk War is your definitive national security briefing. From the conflict in Ukraine to the tensions in Gaza and the latest escalation with Iran, this is where you'll find comprehensive comment and expert analysis with multiple updates throughout the day. The Talk War podcast from Talk, available on the Talk app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, just gone 9:30, so half an hour to go. Julia Hartley-Brewer from 10, Ian Collins from 1, and Kev O'Sullivan sounding great on drive time from 4 o'clock this afternoon. That's your Talk lineup. 0344 499 1000. You text morning Jan, she says, how about for your benefits, you have to serve in the military in whatever capacity you are fit enough to do? What's the number of claimants? Come right down. Jan the man from Blackburn. OK. I don't think the military would want him. I could be missing out. Oh, bugger. Pauline says, question for Carl Turner. Why has the Labour Party paid 20 grand to pay for Angela Rayner to seek legal advice to sort out her tax problems? Ah! I'm thinking we should... You know, we do Ring Rob and we do Call Cunningham for Layla. Why don't we do Carl and his cardigan? Carl's Cardigan Corner. Never mind. Anyway, I think he's fantastic. You can disagree with some of what he says, but the man is a proper politician who says it how it is. Morning, Jez. Telephone Turner. It's to the creative brilliance. Well done, Christian. That was awesome. Morning, Jez. I kind of agree with Starmer not getting involved in the war. I say that because the threat to this country from within is extremely severe. It's very depressing as well as terrifying. Great show. What? I kind of agree with him not getting involved in the war, and I say that because the threat to this country from within is extremely severe. It's an interesting point. Hello to Shane in Bedford. Have I just read that correctly at the bottom of your screen? Miliband has said pubs should serve warmer beer to help with the energy crisis. Is that seriously what he said? Sorry, I've got to go to this. Telegraph. I can't believe how this absolute sausage has managed to find himself in charge of the country's energy. I'm sorry, I've got to... This is a glaring... It's a... Serve warm beer to save pubs cash. Sorry. Really? I want to use a word that begins with T. He is the... Idiot. George in West London, good morning. Can you please stop comparing Starmer to a flip-flop? A flip-flop is rigid and sturdy. He's far more like a windsock, wafting from one direction to another with no structure, just hanging there limply and pointlessly in the breeze. And we all know what windsocks cover, don't we? Yes. Mike in Hampshire, the only assets this government has is its people. Country has no industry, no manufacturing. All our clever students are leaving en masse and no one wants to invest. So the only way government can pay for anything is to tax, and tax the very people who sustain this country in their Carl's in Richmond, great show. Fuel duty and VAT are both percentage based, so when prices go up, tax goes up automatically. So ask yourself, does this government really want prices to come down? Same with inflation. The higher everything goes, the more tax they pull in without touching rates. And with the state finances where they are, that's very convenient. Hard to ignore who quietly benefits from our misery. I think that's absolutely spot on. The government. I want to just get a different angle on what's going on, certainly in terms of the war. Fleur Hassan Nahum is a special envoy for the Israeli Foreign Minister and Jerusalem's former deputy mayor. Fleur, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Good morning. Yes, we slept last night, so I'm doing OK.
I didn't, 2-year-old. Listen, thank you. This morning when we came in on the show, big thing about Starmer apparently upsetting Trump. Trump says, you know, you've let me down. And the thing for me, Fleur, and I'd be really interested in your point of view, is this man doesn't ever take a position and stick to it. I'd far more respect our Prime Minister, who I don't respect at all, if he said to Donald Trump and the Israelis, no, I'm not going offensively, but you can use my bases, we'll maintain that relationship. But he doesn't. This man changes opinion, and surely that's a sign of weakness, isn't it?
Well, absolutely. And also he's making everybody angry on both sides. You know, he starts saying this is nothing to do with us, which I would argue there is very much something to do with them when you have 20 attacks in your country that were thwarted and they were all coming out of the Islamic Republic of Iran. I think that there is something that the British have to do with all of this, because that's their big plan, isn't it? Islamizing the whole world, and they're putting their foot into Britain. But secondly, you're making everybody angry by saying you're not joining the war. Then you're saying, all right, we're sending a ship. Then you're saying, well, we're only defensive. We're only offensive. Make up your mind, have a spine. It seems that he doesn't have one.
I agree with that. Now, you will understand, to me, there is a difference between what's going on militarily and how Jewish people are treated in this country. The first is, apparently yesterday, the UK warns your country over deeply disturbing and alarming Lebanon offensive. What's your response to that?
Well, they don't seem to have the context of why the Lebanon offensive is happening. On the 8th of October, we were attacked. by missiles from Hezbollah, who have occupied Lebanon for decades now. And we went into war with them. 100,000 Israelis had to evacuate their homes in the north of the country. They went back after the ceasefire last year. We had a ceasefire with them. And guess what? They started attacking us again. So what is Israel supposed to do for these people? What is Israel supposed to do? Sit here and take it? No, we're not doing that anymore. And that's why we're in Lebanon, not because we want to. They could have stuck with the ceasefire. They could have kept out of this fight, but no, they started sending missiles to our northern communities, and we're not going to put up with it anymore. We did containment, Jeremy, for years. We did containment. We tried. We left Gaza. We left Lebanon. In 2000, we've given land back. And what do we get? We get bloodshed. We get attacks. So I don't know in which la-la land these people are living in, but they're certainly not living in the Middle East with jihadi, death cult, apocalyptic maniacs trying to destroy us.
What do you say as an Israeli woman? And this is really interesting for me. I was thinking about this earlier. What do you say to the... I mean, look, there was this Al-Quds march at the weekend in London, which I have no shame in saying is a hate march. I'm shamed to say that the British police are investigating. They should have taken those scumbags off the street and locked them up.
Absolutely.
They were okay to be supporting and kissing the badge of a mad mullah who literally murdered 50,000 of his own people, sponsoring terrorism across the world. And yet I look at that and I see them burning Israeli flags, spouting Zionism and all those dreadful things, and the police do nothing. How does it feel as an Israeli person when you know what's going on in the Middle East, and yet internationally, if we're being fair, so many people will stick the boot into what Israel is and what Israel represents? How difficult is that for you?
Well, it's doubly difficult because I'm also British, Jeremy. Yeah. So to see the country where I was born, where I studied, I'm from Gibraltar, so I grew up in Gibraltar. I studied in the UK, and to see the fact that anti-Semitism has become normalized, and there's a group of people that really think that the one little Jewish state, which is the smallest part of the Middle East, somehow is the aggressor, and not all the other countries that have attacked us continuously since we reestablished our state, is brainwashed. They are brainwashed. They have been Islamicized. And I always say this, Jeremy, anti-Semitism is not just a problem for Jews. Anti-Semitism is a problem for the society that lets it fester.
I mean, I've talked about it incessantly, Fleur. I don't know if you've heard. Any form of racism to me is abhorrent, but quite why? Absolutely. If you're white-faced and you're Jewish, you can't be... anti-Semitism is racism. It's as abhorrent as any other racism. It should be classed exactly the same. Two stories which I wanted to throw at you because both send me to hell in a handcart. Kemi Badenoch quite rightly today condemning this disgusting Guardian article. Did you see this? So it was we sent Samara Gill out. So there's in Islington, of course, there's a Gales Cafe. Yes. Because Gales was set up by apparently somebody with Israeli connections 25 years ago, a few grand. The fact that they've opened in a street where there's a Palestinian cafe down the road, it was described as heavy-handed anti-Palestinian aggression, opening a bloody cafe. What have we become?
Yes, unfortunately, a society that won't even do debate, which is what the UK is famous for. Yeah. They won't even do a debate. You can't even disagree civilly. They will just count you out, or they will just say, you have no right, you have no right. What has a bakery got to do with anything? And this, unfortunately, to me, rings like 1930s Germany, when Jews couldn't have businesses. This is what, to me, it smacks of, and it's just so sad to see this in Britain.
There's also something, I will make it my life's mission for the British public to understand quite how dangerous the Green Party is, not just because they won Gorton and Denton, but because I think it's really important for people with a brain cell to understand that this government, that this party wants to legalise heroin. This party seems to think that you can charge people 70% in tax. It wants open borders. It wants to say to anybody coming to this country, don't work, we'll give you a 30 grand a year, here's a house, here's a car. It's ludicrous. But I read something, well, Christian read it, to be fair. Today, the Greens in their, and I think I wrote this down somewhere, I think they've got their spring conference. That'll be fun. They're going to demand, you know, there's been a lot of NHS doctors and consultants and people who have become very politically switched on, and they go on and on about Gaza. The NHS has decided to crack down on anti-Semitism. Fair play to them. Well done. Green Party members today will stage a vote to demand that NHS workers have the right to free speech on Gaza. In the first 18 months after Hamas terror attacks in October, the General Medical Council received almost 500 complaints of anti-Semitism relating to 123 doctors. So these are senior doctors in the NHS who can be anti-Semitic. The NHS, fair play to them, wants to crack down. The Green Party thinks that's wrong.
The Green Party has made its entire manifesto about tolerating intolerance. And that's exactly what they're doing. They have made it into their manifesto. Let's tolerate Jew hatred. Let's tolerate intolerance, because somehow that to them is being pluralistic. Look, these people are really gotten a mind virus. And I don't know what it's going to take for this to clear out. But it's really very sad to see that the country that saved the world twice, that Winston Churchill will be turning in his grave if he
apparently he's a racist, according to the younger generation.
And apparently the good guy was Hitler and the bad guy was Winston Churchill. Well, there you go. The world's turned upside down. It's like a 1984. It's like the 1984 novel. I don't know what else to say.
The most amazing thing about speaking to people like you is because I genuinely have moments where I think I'm going mad. I genuinely will sit on the tube or in the car on the way home and think, is it just me? But almost everybody I meet, Fleur, genuinely just says to me, what the hell's happened to this country? I will forever support the Jewish people. I've made that perfectly obvious. I think it's an outrage. It's always an absolute pleasure to have you on. We really do appreciate it. It's lovely to see you. Fleur Hussein Nahum, Special Envoy for the Israeli Foreign Ministry and former Deputy Mayor of Jerusalem. This is Talk Breakfast. Isabel Oakeshot's next.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Really is non-stop here on Breakfast. Call us at 10. Julia in 15 minutes. 0344 499 1000. Jan's in Merseyside. Jezza. I always thought that the name Labour was for the workers of this country. Shouldn't they rebrand with a name that represents government, the government that they are? What useless. Sean in Gloucester says we should be more worried about Islamification of the UK rather than Islamophobia. And I like this. Where Pewsey? Mike Williams is in Pewsey. It's in Wiltshire. Did you know that? Yeah, Mark knows because he's driven one of them sad coaches there. What a great bloke Carl Turner is. Although I would never vote for his party, I can absolutely understand why his constituents did. Completely agree with you there, Marky. Carl Turner. I think we're going to do, what are we going to do? Telephone Turner. Sounds like a sandwich. 0344 499 1000, 14 minutes to 10. No show is complete on this station of mine without the legend that is Isabel Oakeshott, our Talk International editor. Hello.
Good morning. What do you mean it sounds like a sandwich? Are you getting hungry?
No, I'm not getting hungry. I'm sort of, my brain's all over the place this morning. Do you want to see something funny? So when we came in this morning, I don't want you to laugh. If you're watching on YouTube, this is true. We came in this morning and whoever did this yesterday, I have a microphone and I have an ear set that's mine. Somebody's lost it. So that is a picture of me currently. That's the only thing they could find to stick down the microphone was a bit of fragile tape from the post room.
I mean, you're many things, Jezza, but fragile is not what I would describe you as being.
Your husband-to-be sent me a text after our interview earlier and said, "Thank you, Mr. Fragile. That was fun." Isabel, welcome. Loads to run through. We'll do it as quickly as possible. Overnight, Trump, I've said it to everybody, saying he's not happy with Starmer. And actually, a poll out today saying 70% of people in this country didn't want to join it. But for me, that's not the issue. The issue is a man who goes one way and then the other. You can't have my bases, you can. You can't have my minesweepers, you can. I believe that if you stood up to Donald Trump, even if you disagreed with him, he would respect you more. The problem with Starmer is he can't even lead himself to the toilet. He's not a leader. It's not in his DNA. And that's what damages us and the relationship internationally, isn't it?
Well, I mean, he very much was trying to cast himself as a leader in that address to the nation that he did yesterday, essentially saying, look, you know, it would be the easiest thing in the world to just say yes to things. And then, you know, I'm the prime minister. I don't have the luxury of being able to change my mind. I mean, he didn't quite use those words, but...
Well, he has about 17 times.
Oh, well, I mean, he's always changing his mind anyway, isn't he? Yeah. But I think that when he goes on about how he has to make decisions in the national interest, I get that, but it rings very hollow when we've got a prime minister that for 18 months has allowed thousands of undocumented young men to keep coming across the channel with no idea who they are. A lot of them are Iranians, by the way. So I just find it very hard to take anything he says about putting the UK first and putting the British people first seriously, given his record on not doing that.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. And if you are going to put the British people first, then your first duty as Prime Minister of this country is to protect this nation. So what about this appalling figure I was given by Sarah Pochin this morning? At the end of this year, Isabel, we will have spent £300 billion on benefits and £55 billion on our defence. This is, as Richard said earlier, historically down to the Tories and Labour, as much the Tories, if not more so than Labour. How bad is that? Is it not time that we had a government that is not afraid to stand up and say there are feckless, lazy people who are gaming this system and the really vulnerable, needy are missing out? We need to call these people out and kick them off benefits and spend the money more wisely.
I mean, absolutely. And my instinct is that that benefits bill needs to be slashed by about a third.
Yeah,
you know, maybe more
than. That's what I said.
And I listened to Carl Turner, and you know, like you, I respect where he comes from and his passion. And he didn't hold back, did he, on the jury trials and what an asinine and terrible idea that was from David Lammy. But I disagreed with him on benefits. He didn't go far enough to me. He gave that illustration of the family that came to see him, and they're all on benefits. And when he said, well, why don't you get a job? You know, they said, well, what do you mean we can't get a job? And he sounded mildly sympathetic. I'm not sympathetic to that at all. If there's anyone in that family that can work, they should be working. And it has become a choice. And he kept on saying, well, we need to get people enthused about work. Well, trust me, if they don't have an unnecessary safety net, they're pretty enthused about work. You know, I live normally, I'm in the UK at the moment, but I live in a country which doesn't have a welfare state. And there isn't a safety net for, there is probably for Emiratis, but for those who come into the country, myself included, the state's not going to look after you if you don't earn your own living.
And I think that is the issue about this. I think this is the issue about this country that is so appalling, that in our guise as apologists, in the way that we've become a country where you can come in readily and be given more than the indigenous population, or you can sit on your arse. Let's call it out for what it is. 4 million people aren't mentally ill and disabled. I would suspect that half of those are playing the system. Those people should be called out and their benefits should be stopped. And it's like when the Labour Party say to me, oh, the two-child cap benefit, oh, people will be in poverty. Well, stop having kids you can't afford to pay for and stop trying to scam a system. You're absolutely right. We had to go to work to buy stuff. If that's not part of the way that your brain works, then the government's responsibility is to make sure you change that mindset by taking away stuff that you're having for the wrong reasons.
I mean, Carl Turner's kind of got the right idea, but he's got the onus of responsibility the wrong way round. It is not the responsibility of the state to get people enthusiastic about work. It's a responsibility of the state to remove the system that allows them not to bother, so that what's left, which is the people that really need the help, which neither you nor I nor I don't think a single one of our listeners object to, they actually get properly looked after. We've got absolutely the worst of all worlds at the moment. We need a culture underpinned by a welfare system in which the default position is that you make your own way in life, unless you really can't, in which case we'll look after you, and without any kind of resentment or grudge. That is what a civilized society does. But if kids are growing up thinking that this is just an option and, well, maybe I'll become a nurse, or maybe I'll go and work in Tesco, or maybe actually, you know what, that's all a bit like too much effort and I'll just sign on. That is a massive problem, and that is where we are at the moment. And no government, including the Tories, have been brave enough to absolutely take a scythe to this. They've tinkered around the edges. That's the best they've done. We need a massive crackdown. I'm talking of the scale of a third of what's going on, probably, perhaps even more.
Very quickly, only got a minute, do apologise. This is brilliant. In the Mail, even the boss of Britain's wind farm trade body today has told Mad Ed Miliband he should allow more North Sea oil and gas production. I said it to Richard, I'll say it to you. I'm 120 billion in debt and my garden is gold bars under the ground, 120 billion, but I'm going to leave it there and use all... It's utterly ludicrous, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's even worse. They're just going to buy some gold bars from neighbouring countries, and the gold bars that we could actually have some ownership over. Completely mad. To listen to Keir Starmer yesterday, you'd have thought that we are, days away from being energy self-sufficient, rather than it being a decade-long distant utopia that is never going to be reached any time that this government is in charge.
Drill, baby, drill.
Oh, 100%.
Love you, Isabel. Thank you. Morning, Caroline.
Hi, Jeremy. Caroline from London. Yes, we should be involved in this war. If we don't get rid of Iran, the world is never going to be a safe place. It is as simple as that. And I think a huge majority of the people in this country have got no understanding of what the IRCG and the Iranian regime is about, and how much absolute terror across the world they have caused in the last 47 years. And as for the government, we are at war. The British are at war with their own government. It is pitiful, and I really am worried where this country is going to end up. Great show, Jeremy.
We are here to support our people of Palestine, of course, and Iran. It's pretty clear and evident. And the massacre of 165 girls. But our blood is considered cheap, but it's not. It's just as equal. Humans are all equal.
What about the bombing of the Ayatollah? What did you think of that?
He was destined for that. That was his destiny, and he fulfilled his dream. He died for the cause of his belief.
When conflict breaks out
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side, this is Talk.
Welcome back, Julia. And just to take morning, Jez, I was just reading the strip across the bottom of the screen about speed limits to save fuel. How are they going to enforce this? Do we all get set fines and the people driving electric cars can appeal? Says Julia in Mansfield. No idea. Morning, Richard.
Morning, Jez. Great show. Richard from Lancashire here. Just on the war and whether we should have supported it. I think war is always a difficult thing, but we should have supported Donald Trump for the simple reason to show unity. In Russia's eyes, in China's eyes, we don't look unified. The West looks broken. They're sat there thinking, you know, this is not a bad time for us to do some of the things that we want to do. Putin's already done that. Xi Jinping's got his eye on Taiwan. So that's my 2 pennies worth anyway.
Thank you, Richard, and very good morning to Julia Hartley-Brewer.
A very good morning to you, indeed.
I'm feeling slightly fragile.
I can see you. What have you done, love? What have you done?
We got in here this morning and that idiot that works on the show, Damien, has lost my headset and my microphone, so we have clips, because it's all... So I've got... no sellotape, just that. Fragile. Brilliant, isn't it? Honestly, my neck's stuck to my hairline. It's not funny. I will take it off in a minute. What you got on the show?
Take off your hairline.
See, I'm not saying anything.